for what he believes in. I can let Ephraim Winslow know that I didn't need to know that, and now he's
I
ruined
don't
my day.
appreciate knowing
I
that.
don't appreciate knowing that. You can't see it on the chat, but can't see it on the screen. You know what? That would be justification enough for God to keep you guys off the screen today.
Yeah,
So
I
if
agree.
you're not on the screen during the stream today, blame Ephraim Winslow. It's his fault for
It's his fault for mentioning
mentioning
the
The
unmentionable.
unmentionable Winnie the Pooh snake nonsense that has happened on the internet. I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised, but I still didn't need to know.
Ugh,
I didn't
that's
mean to be the one to inform you. You know, I suppose that's fair.
oh
You know, I suppose. I mean, I didn't want to know that like one of the bigger movie reviewers on this website has a kink for Scar from The Lion King either, but here we
oh
are
boy.
in the year of our Lord
Yeah,
2026, and
I
now
could
we
have
all
gone
know
my
that.
whole life without knowing any of that. Like, and I enjoyed his videos.
There was a time.
There was a
There
moment.
once was a time, yeah. So it goes. Well, I hope you're all having a fine Sunday. We're here to talk about a movie on the internet. Can you believe it? Today, the movie is The Jungle Book. Not to be confused with crappier versions made sense, but the 1967 Walt Disney's The Jungle
Animated
Book.
classic. Walt Disney's The Jungle Book, based on
Yes.
something Kipling. I can never pronounce his name.
Rudyard? I've
I
never
can
actually heard
never
it said.
pronounce his name correctly. Yeah, Rudyard Kipling, The Jungle Book. Uh, I
Loosely
very
based.
loosely based, I would imagine. I listened to a little bit on audiobook, but I kept falling asleep, so I'm not 100% sure.
You're supposed to be. Oh, there you are on the screen. Look at that.
Oh, oh boy.
Right after they cut off Ephraim
Your
Winslow
penance,
talking about.
your penance has been accepted.
Yes.
Clearly.
Clearly, now you're on the screen, but not what you said earlier. So that's
Yes.
fair.
Yeah, fair.
That is fair. Live action equals better. Duh. No. Get out of here, you filthy casual.
Yeah, live
Nobody.
action. Eric, where they really got actual monkeys and bears and shit.
Oh, that's the other funny thing is even calling them live action. Yeah, this 3D animated remakes of good movies, they never tend to be good, do they? That's a shame. Maybe you should stop making them.
Didn't
Please.
Rudyard
Please, for the
Kipling
love of
write
God,
White
actually,
Man's
stop
Burden?
making them.
Indeed he did. Indeed he did. Rudyard Kipling is the white man's burden guy.
Oh, did he coin the phrase?
I'm pretty sure.
Ah.
I want to say 99% sure it was his idea. Which kind of, now
Yeah,
that this kind of
it's
makes
a
sense, because like
poem.
there's a chapter, because the Jungle Book is just a collection of little short stories. The actual Jungle Book is just a
Little
collection of little
vignettes,
vignettes and
yeah.
short stories. And there's a bit after Mowgli has decided to, so to basically, the man village doesn't like him, but the wolf pack doesn't like, the wolf pack wants him back and the man village doesn't want him, but he basically goes, fuck you guys, you threw me out, you threw me out, and now that I've done what needed to be done, now you want me back? No, eat shit and die. I'm gonna go off and be myself. I'm gonna be a one man, army. There's a chapter after where we have now diverted into a seal pup, a white seal pup, who is better than everyone else because he is white, but he needs to find an island of other white seal pups because pure bloodline. Basically, a seal pup searches for Hyperborea. Is a little
Oh, okay.
detour. We do a detour filler
like
episode.
the penguin,
yeah,
who like walks
runs to the
alone
mountains.
towards the mountains.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Why'd they cut that?
Yeah.
Why'd they cut that from the movie?
You know,
There'll be a lot
I
to say about. I have not read the original book and all those little vignettes and short stories. You said you started to listen to the audiobook but fell asleep. So this will mostly focus on the movie itself. But from what I do understand, there have been many creative liberties taken, and it diverts, quite a bit from the original book and quite a bit from the original draft of the story written by our boy whose name I always struggle to remember. It's Pete's. What's his first name? Oh gosh, what's his name? Bill Peet, that's the guy
Oh,
who did a
two for
bunch of the writing for this sort of classic era Disney stuff, and he wrote the original draft for this movie. And he had also previously done The Sword in the Stone, not his best work, I might add. And because it wasn't his best work, and because it didn't actually perform very well by Walt Disney standards, he came in to be like, "Let me take a look at this story." Before he had had unsupervised access to write the story of Jungle Book as he saw fit, and he contributed many of the things that will end up in the final film, but there are still many changes made afterwards because Walt Disney came back after The Sword in the Stone underperformed and was like, let me take a look at what you're doing here. Let's actually change it a lot, actually. Let's make it more lighthearted. He was like, this one needs to perform. This one needs to be a success. So I'm going to step in. So there are some urban legends because The Jungle Book, is the last film that Walt Disney made before his untimely demise to cigarettes.
yes, yes.
There are some legends that he didn't actually have much to do with because he died before it released, that he had little to do with it. But it's actually a little bit more of the opposite, where he came in, saw what was being done, and was like, actually, no, we really need to make this more lighthearted. We need to make this more fun. We need to do this and that. So he was actually quite involved, even though the movie came out after he passed. So there's a lot of him in this movie for sure. And this is, like I said, the last one he made before he died. So before we continue talking about the Jungle Book, let's just take a moment and say that, Walt Disney, absolute American hero, legend,
Yes.
responsible for some of the best animated movies ever made. And, his cultural influence on American culture and world, culture
Yep.
is kind of
Culture
hard
of
to
cinema
overstate.
overall.
Yeah,
It's very
unbelievable person. Rest in peace, Walt Disney. You're a legend.
You're a real one. And what a show you put on for your last big hurrah. This one.
Yeah, this is a very fun movie. It's funny how many later Disney movies are sort of going back to the well of this one. The Lion King being the most obvious one. Scar is basically Shere Khan. Almost beat for beat. With
Yes.
so
Yeah. Well, I noticed that some of the animation for Bagheera also gets repeated in The Lion King too. You can pretty easily tell that they used some of that model for some of probably Nala, I want to say. It's a little bit, but yeah, you can really feel the influence, at least in that. This is also one of the first ones where we're going to get a nice jazzy score for some of these songs, and I'm a
I like the
big
jazz.
fan. Putting Louis Prima as really Louis Prima was kind of born to play the Monkey King in this movie.
Do you know the story of how they ended up casting him and who they intended to cast originally?
I assume that it's well. So here's the thing: I don't know, but I assume that
Take a
because
guess.
Louis Prima has so many banana themed songs, they just went, yeah. I mean, who else would we hire? Even outside of Disney, he really likes singing about bananas.
I mean, who can blame him?
Yeah,
Bananas are the best.
they are pretty great.
But no, he was not their original thought. So Bill Peet, who wrote the original outline before Walt Disney stepped in and said, we should probably take this in a different direction. Bill Peet's original outline was a bit darker. We can talk about some of the finer details as we go through the plot of what happens in this movie. But he created King Louie is not in the books, right? He was created out of whole cloth by Bill Peet as, an orangutan who wants the secret of man's red fire so he can sort of rebuild this ancient. He's like living in the ruins of an ancient.
By the way.
Oh, it's so good. I love it. Like this ancient kind of city and temple that's like fallen into nature, and he's like trying to he wants to become a human more than anything because he wants the power and the civilization and all that sort of stuff. Really interesting addition to the story.
It's like the French trying to imitate what the Romans did before them,
Sure. Sure, yeah. And so he was created by Bill Peet, but Bill Peet got into a sort of creative differences spat with Disney and ultimately ended up leaving the project. And so Walt Disney brought in some other people. A guy named Larry Clemens is the new writer, and he, along with the Sherman brothers, who I think they're responsible for the songs, if I remember correctly. Anyway, they reimagined King Louie as kind of like a fun, jazzy swing singer. And like, I first of all, I love that choice because I actually think that makes his sort of slightly ominous turn more interesting. Because he's like charming and fun, and he
Yeah.
sort of lures Mowgli in, but then he's like he's got a more sinister ulterior motive. I think that's a really interesting sort of dynamic. But originally they were like, "Oh, what about Louis Armstrong?"
That not a bad choice either. Honestly, I think he would have been he could have done a good job with that too.
Well, see, the thing is, Richard Sherman recalled our discussion at the time was he's an ape. What does an ape do? Swings in a tree. The
Oh.
jazz is swing music, and a guy literally swings if he's an ape. Clemens also created the human girl, blah blah blah.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
hold
wait a
on,
minute, hold on.
let me get the exact quote. Um, According to Richard Sherman, the idea was discarded of getting Louis Armstrong after one of the writers said the NAACP is going to jump all over it having a black man playing an ape. It would be politically terrible.
You
And they
know,
said that was the last thing on our minds, nothing we'd ever thought of. So we said, okay, we'll think of someone else.
I feel you. Well, I did not see that the first time around, but yeah, good call actually. Um, because we would have about 1 million video essays on YouTube
You
about
know what's
why.
funny is that people like I have seen the criticism that King Louis is a sort of racist caricature, and it's just like, oh, yeah, that's not supposed to be Louis Armstrong. It's supposed to be Louis Prima. And
Yes.
you can tell if you know who Louis Prima is. I mean, maybe there's a conversation about there as to whether
Oh
Italians
yeah.
are really white or
Yeah,
not,
it's
but
it's
that's
a
a
it's
more
a
common,
it's if
that's a more
anything, it's more
complicated
racist
question.
towards Italians because it's depicting their culture. You
Yes.
know.
No, but Louis Prima, excellent choice. Big fan of him. He is amazing in this movie. Tremendous, if you will.
Yes.
Um, a lot of really interesting things about the making of this movie,
I
and we'll
mean, lots
talk
of
more about
interesting
it.
casting choices too. This is also one.
Yeah.
I mean, the Vultures. I don't know if you're aware of the one behind them, but the casting story behind them. But I clocked this pretty early on with the Vultures. I was like, oh, that's supposed to be the Beatles, right?
Yes, that's supposed to
Yeah,
be the Beatles. They wanted to get the Beatles,
but
but they
John
said no.
Lennon was being a cunt, and he
Yeah.
he was like, I'll never sing for Disney, and so then he didn't, and so then they basically just resorted to making fun of him with one of the
Yeah.
Vulture characters, which
One of the Vulture characters in particular is just John Lennon. Full stop. The other ones, like one of them looks like a little bit older. They don't all sort of conform to the Beatles mold, but one of them is definitely John Lennon. It's pretty funny.
yeah,
We got a lot of
um,
interesting casting choices and really interesting use of music in this movie. There's a little bit of that old school Disney, sort of American, European orchestral flair. There's also a bit of the sort of like Orientalism, Indian sort of influence, like the snake charmer type music, which is really cool. And then, of course, the jazz numbers, this like the old school, almost Dixieland jazz
yeah.
numbers. They're, oh my God, they're so much fun. This is a great. So, before we get into the plot and everything that happens in it and all that sort of stuff, Hugh, what do you think of 1967's The Jungle Book?
I liked it a lot. Very very fun. I mean, it was a little vignette at points. I think that it like I like the journey of Mowgli from having to leave the animal world and go back to being a man. It's basically like a whole, there's a fun way that they have of spinning the idea of, oh well, they'll make a man out of him, and we like him now because he's innocent and he hasn't hit that level of adulthood, right? But it's basically him having to leave his animal friends behind to go and become an adult, right? It's a journey, his journey from boyhood to adulthood, and he learns valuable lessons from his animal friends. He also learns. I think the movie does a pretty good job of showing that the animals don't have, especially Baloo, don't have it all figured out, and he ends up mastering, mastering himself and being, I like his journey. I like Mowgli's journey here. I think
Yeah,
it's really good in the music. Two songs that I'm thinking of in particular, the Bare Necessities and King Louie's song, are just top
banger.
notch. Absolute two of my favorite Disney songs, like way up top.
Yeah, they're really good. I like this movie a lot. I think it's really good. It's maybe well, I mean, we'll get to the rankings at the end. Maybe not the best Disney movie of all time. I think the vignettiness of it, the fact that it's a lot of kind of disconnected sequences and gags. There is a sort of through line over the whole thing. Mowgli himself doesn't really go on the strongest character arc
Yeah,
of these Disney movies we've talked about. It's almost more Baloo and
right.
Bagheera learning things having to do with Mowgli more than Mowgli learning a whole lot himself. He learns some things, obviously,
Yeah, and
but
he does get to conquer the villain by the end.
yes, absolutely, and that's nice and that's fun. So I was watching it again. I couldn't really remember how it ended, and so I was a little worried that this was getting into because this is 1967, right? I was worried this was getting into a little too much beatnik, hippy dippy, you know, noble savage type stuff.
Not enough to keep John Lennon happy, though, apparently.
No, apparently, apparently not. As I was watching it, I was a little worried it was going to like lean too far in that direction. But it's actually a kind of shockingly conservative movie by the very end of it. You know what, like because at the end,
Hmm.
okay, so the basic story being that Mowgli is sort of like found abandoned in the jungle by Bagheera the panther, who can't raise him himself, so he gives him to a pack of wolves who have a bunch of like a new litter or whatever they call them. And so he's raised by wolves, right? He's raised in the jungle, but he's getting to be about 10 years old now. And it's time that he goes back to the human world for a couple of reasons. One is because he's getting too old. You know, he's sort of, entering puberty, he's going to become a man and like, you know, wolves don't really have the ability to to handle that or to teach him how to be a man and all that sort of stuff. But also there's Shere Khan, the tiger, who hates mankind with the vengeful passion. And so if he hears about the kid, he's going to want to come kill him. So Bagheera's like, no, you need to go be with your own kind now. But of course, Mowgli has had
He doesn't want
no
to grow up.
experience.
He
He
doesn't.
doesn't want to
He
grow
wants to
up.
stay in Neverland with his wolf pals and stay in the
And also,
jungle and
he's
have fun.
literally never encountered a
Yeah,
human being in his life. So he really doesn't know what he's missing or anything. And so there's this whole theme running through it about like, like people belonging with their own kind and like what's your rightful place and all that sort of stuff in nature or in civilization and the balance between the two. And most of the movie is, except for Bagheera, who's the one person who's like trying to be wise and helpful and try to do the right thing. He meets a whole bunch of characters who, for various reasons, don't want him to go grow up and become a man, either because they think mankind are like just hunters who are going to like, cause harm to the other animals or whatever, or because like, no, I like him, he'll make a good bear. Baloo being the beatnik sort of hippie stand-in in the movie. Um, and
yeah.
so, but eventually, by the very end, spoilers, if you haven't seen this movie from 1967, you probably should. By the very end, as soon as he sees another human being, who happens to be like a young girl, and he's like completely smitten, and then immediately like, oh right, I belong with people,
Yeah.
right? And then it's like, and then he goes off to be a man and live with human beings. So it's like for all the sort of like, sort of like hippy dippy noble savage stuff that like he goes through. At the very end, it's just like, no, he belongs
Now
with
he
his own
can't.
kind.
His being human will always stop him from being a bear. So it's
Yes.
in a way, it's a very a very anti-trans message, you could say.
Yeah, that's what I mean about like, by the very end, it comes to a very sort of like traditionalist sort of message. Because as soon as he finally sees human beings and civilization, he's like, oh, right, the thing I've been sort of missing my entire life. And there it is. And like, and he's just hooked instantly. And then like, there's basically no turning back from that point. And it's presented as a happy thing. And then Blue's like, "Oh well, I thought he would have made a great bear." Oop de doop de doop de doop de doop, and then he goes back to
Him
being
and
his
Bagheera,
goofy self.
yeah, have I think this is the start of a beautiful friendship off into the off into
Yeah,
the sunset, singing a song, and it's great. It's a fun little time, fun little romp.
yeah. And so, for like, I was a little worried about the direction it would go in, honestly. I did learn that Bill Pete's original sort of, you know, outline of the story had him going back to the village earlier in the story, finding a hunter who's sort of like an image of like mankind at its worst. It's, verging on Bambi territory, which I don't really care for. Uh, and then eventually, like I don't remember exactly how it played out, but the hunter goes out into the woods and he's killed by Shere Khan, and then Mowgli kills Shere Khan.
Yes.
And then Mowgli is treated as a hero of both worlds. And so he can kind of like find the balance, quote unquote,
Yeah.
between the two and sort of like I think he's granted like membership on the Wolf Council, for example. So
Yes.
he's like a half he exists in that sort of liminal space between like a foot in both worlds. And I'm like, that's
It's
interesting.
interesting.
I like this better.
Yeah.
I like this a lot better.
Yeah. The other one is more of like your classic sort of hero's journey myth thing, right? Like he ends up like he's brought back the fire and now is able to incorporate it. Like the village that he's a part of is going to be have a new relationship with the Wolf Council, and with like he's going to bring like a golden age upon the village, the man village that he's in. I think in this one it's more like, okay, no, it's he's grown up now. He's grown up and he
Yeah.
has left the jungle. He's back where he belongs. Like, a couple of
Well, it's
people in the
almost
chat
like
have said he's with his own kind.
yeah, like the inciting incident of the story is him being somehow through, unfortunate means being stranded in the jungle, and this is the return home, right? I mean, he was a baby, and so he didn't know what home was. He didn't really know how important it was to be among his own people, didn't really think that's what he wanted. And then as soon as he saw it, he's like, oh, yeah, duh, absolutely. You know what I mean? It's an interesting, this movie is almost somewhere halfway between like a Tarzan and The Lion King. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's because there's a lot they have in common. So for example, when he meets Baloo, Baloo sings a happy little dandy beatnik hippie song about how you don't need to really worry about anything. All you need is the bare necessities,
Yeah,
right?
because everything will come to you, right?
Everything will come to you. Don't worry. Forget about your worries and your strife. It's very Hakuna Matata, right? And he's literally lifting up stones and eating bugs, just like they are
yeah.
in the Hakuna Matata set piece, right? And
And he's one like the opening, our opening image is him floating down a river, right? And he's like literally just kind of like, if you just go with the flow, you'll find and don't have any expectations, right? Then you'll always find what you need. I think one of the lines in the song is, don't waste your time looking around for something you want that can't be found, right? Because
mhm,
you'll realize you can live without it and go on not thinking about it, right?
yeah,
And it's like, yeah, see, that's not that's a very, that's an animal kingdom kind of thing, right? It works
yeah,
at being at peace in nature as a bear, but that's not a
but he's
human.
not a
Yeah,
bear.
that he's not a bear, he's a human. That's not a human spirit kind of thing. But he does,
Yeah,
it's a valuable thing to have, but it can't be everything for a
yeah,
person. And I think this movie very clearly understands that in a way that modern movies that do something similar to this do not. Like
yeah, yeah. Because ultimately, it's one of the reasons I compared it to The Lion King, other than a lot of the surface level details that have been just taken one for The Lion King, is that like in The Lion King as well, he has to learn that that's not the way to be. It's not on the nose, but it's more explicit in The Lion King. In this, it's like, he doesn't really know what his place is, and he thinks, yeah, why can't I be in the jungle? This is where all my friends are. This is where I've always been. Why can't I be? And then the moment he sees,
a pretty
you
girl.
know, pretty girl. And I honestly, I love that. I
Yeah.
love that it's, that he sees a girl. It's not just he sees, a bunch of people. He sees a girl. And so
How
I
quickly
don't know. I
does
think,
rose before hose vanish?
yeah. In this case, I'm in support of I'm
Yes.
supporting it. I'm in favor of it. Yeah, but it's a really interesting story, and I think it is. I think the other version, the original draft before Walt Disney stepped in to be like, I don't know about this, where he like kind of there's a human character, but he's kind of evil, and then he needs to sort of like find the balance between the two. That's I don't know. I don't like that quite as much. It
Well, that
like there's a way to
feels
make that work.
60s. That feels more. That feels very much more 60s than.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll have a little it's got that strain of very mild anti-human sentiment. Not nearly as bad as a lot of things these days, but it's just I'm glad that what they did, because it's almost like there's this like there's a want to be this sort of like carefree, happy beatnik sort of thing coursing through the movie, but then ultimately at the end they're like, yeah, but you can't live this way forever, can you? It's like, no, I guess you can't. It's like I don't know. It's like we're almost into full hippie territory, but there's still like 1 foot in like responsibility. Like that's
Yeah.
what the movie feels like it has, and I like that because it really sticks the landing for me.
Yeah. I agree, and it does it in a very funny way. A funny way that
Yeah.
parallels something that happens earlier in the movie, right? And I guess maybe there's something here, right? So the Ka, the snake, right?
Yes.
He has this is a very interesting character. Voiced by Winnie the Pooh, the Winnie the Pooh man.
Voiced by
Um,
Winnie the Pooh himself. Yeah.
yeah, Winnie the Pooh.
They
Very
paid him in honey. Yes, of
yes,
course.
yeah, of course. Well, yeah. Why would you? Why would you go with anything else? He's just gonna spend it all on honey anyway. Uh,
Oh, that's
uh,
good. All right, continue. You're saying.
Yeah, so like that surprised me because I did not remember that voice was gonna come out of the snake. It's a very
Yeah, it sounded very familiar. I'm like, if you imagine sort of evil Winnie the Pooh, that's what Ka
yeah
is, essentially.
yeah but he has a hypnotic gaze that he uses to to convince basically to convince people to do or other animals to do what he says and what he wants, right?
Yeah.
So like when he's trying to eat Mowgli, he hypnotizes him, um, presented in the bad way, right? But then later on at the end of the movie when he meets the girl, they do something very similar where they show her eyes like beckoning to
Yeah.
him the whole time,
Yeah.
and it's
That's really good. I didn't
right,
even think
yeah.
about that, but you're totally right.
Yeah, yeah. So they present it as like no, no like, and it's funny because it's like okay, well, now that I'm aware of this, right? Like, there's a whole subculture of degenerates on the internet who have developed some kind of weird kink toward the snake. It's like you literally chose the evil, like there was. There's one of these at the end. They like it, it shows you the good version. You literally
Yeah.
chose the evil ending. Like you,
Yeah.
what? I mean, obviously, there's the imagery of of it being the snake too. Like it
Yes.
is very baked in. Um, but yeah, I think that's it does a really good job paralleling those two and
Yeah.
showing you like that this power does work for the good of things as well
Oh
in the
yeah.
right places, and maybe that
Yeah,
women
absolutely.
get a
Because
little of their
it calls
magic
him
from
it
snakes.
yeah, it sort of like seduces or like calls him towards the good, you know what I mean? Which
Yeah,
is like it's like it's like an image of like the proper role of the sort of like feminine magic type thing, you know? Comparing women to snakes, we love it. It's good stuff. It's like women are good snakes. There you go. That's the
yeah.
lesson from the
Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
movie.
yeah. Matthew Leach, this is a really good point as well. Looking at the trailer on screen, there's so much personality in the characters, even the
Oh
secondary and
yeah.
tertiary ones. Right. Okay, that is a really good point too, right? Okay,
Yeah,
so
let's talk about that.
each individual elephant in the little elephant army corps, which is a great bit, right? Like
Oh, I love it. It's so good.
A British colonel, like marching thing. Each individual elephant has a personality that you can see in the character design, right? The
Yeah.
monkeys, each individual monkey, like there's a little guy who does some dancing with King Louie, and he doesn't have a name. He's not given, but he has an entire, like, his own entire personality. Each
Oh yeah.
vulture has their own personality. There's all, and then so somebody earlier asked, how does the remake compare to this? That is one of the biggest steps down. Is that all of the personality from the characters is completely lost because Jon Favreau decided to do photorealistic bears and monkeys and shit, voiced by Bill Murray
Yeah.
and Christopher Walken, who,
Okay,
you
so
know,
have you seen that movie?
yeah, I have.
Okay, let's go on a brief tangent because I have not seen the movie. Tell me a little bit about it. I mean,
It's
listen, I know what happened with John Favreau's The Lion King 2019, so I imagine it's
it's the
the
same
same thing.
thing. It's the
Yeah,
same
okay.
thing. It's worse in almost every conceivable way. Christopher
Mhm.
Walken is, like, on the surface an okay choice for the role of King Louie because he has a similar
Oh, I was
weird vocal.
not thinking King Louie when you started that sentence.
Yeah, Christopher Walken
What?
voices King Louie.
No,
Yeah.
that
And
doesn't
it's
work.
because he has a similar cadence in the way that he talks to Louis Prima when Louis Prima sings, but Christopher
Sure.
Walken can't sing. So
Yeah.
he does the song. He's like, "You I want to be like you." It's like
Oh
it's
god.
awful. It's
I can
awful.
hear it in my head, and I
Yeah.
don't like it.
He does not have
I'm
the
surprised they even
charm.
kept the songs,
Oh yeah,
if they're gonna sap all the other all the rest of the life out of it, why even keep the music?
because that's what people expect. It's the same thing that The Lion King did, right? Like
Yeah,
Bill
and
Murray
it's
voices
terrible.
Baloo, and like Bill Murray also does not have the Phil Harris chops yet to do the song. It also the design just doesn't have the charm. Like
Also,
Baloo,
Bill Murray doesn't really care anymore.
yeah, he's
He
been
did at
phone,
one
yeah,
point.
he did
He's
at
been
one point, and then he's been phoning it in probably ever
yeah,
since this. Honestly, I mean, like, at least
at
since
least,
the
yeah.
reboot of the Jungle Book, but like. Yeah, it's just Christopher Walken as King Louis is a lot like him as the Emperor in Dune. Yes. Yeah. It's very low energy and kind of underwhelming. And
Yeah,
then yeah,
that's a shame.
it is. It's not great. It's just worse in every way is basically the the only way to describe it. It's just
Yeah,
worse
I
in
mean,
every way. Just like The
I
Lion
can't say
King
I'm surprised.
2019,
Yeah.
it was a reboot that should never have happened, but here we are.
Is it the same story the way The Lion King is basically
Yeah,
meant
it's
for
the
be the
same.
same?
It's basically the same story, but it's a little longer because, of course, like
Of course, yeah, they always do that.
yeah,
They always do that. It's always longer and worse. Like that's I think maybe the most remarkable one if you were like really interested in the sort of like, breaking down on a scientific level what pacing is and why it matters. The thing to look at would be the remake of Lilo and Stitch. Because the remake of the live action remake of Lilo and Stitch is like way longer, and also they cut a lot of important stuff from the scenes you remember.
yeah.
It's like how do you manage to do both? That's really like an interesting question if someone were going to do a deep dive just on that. I would watch that video. I'm not gonna make it. I don't have time. But if someone else made that video, I would watch it.
It's also
It's really
darker.
interesting.
So like the scene with King Louis in this is kind of played for laughs, especially by the end, right? Like the ruins of the
Sure.
city collapse, but it's not like he's still standing there holding like the one little disc left of the crumbling building, right? Because he was
Yeah.
overhead pressing an entire ruin, like probably contributing to the deep-seated fear of primates that I have, because that those orangutans, I looked it up while watching this movie, could probably easily overhead press like 500 pounds, which is
The
insane.
orangutans are chill. They're
They're
cool.
chill, yeah, but like if they
Yeah,
if
I
one
I res
ever decided to start training and
yeah, we'd be in
lifting weights
trouble.
and doing steroids, we'd be in
Yeah,
some serious trouble.
yeah,
Planet of the Apes is
I
a yeah,
certainly get it. Chimpanzees especially, they
yeah,
can be pretty brutal, but orangutans are cool. I always liked orangutans. I like how they have, like, longer arms and they have legs. It's
yeah.
just a
It is
really
funny.
interesting that's fun.
Yeah, I know a couple people like that too. Um, but yeah, so like I forgot about this in the live action version. King Louis finds out that Mowgli can't make fire, and then he rampages. Yeah, like he flies into a rage and destroys the ancient ruin on top of himself.
Oh, that
It's
doesn't make
so
any
much
sense, though.
worse. It's so
Yeah, it's
much
so much
worse.
worse. Yeah, because he lives there because he wants it. He wants like he's living in the ruins of a once great civilization, wondering how he can bring it back, but he just can't figure out. He can't make the leap to sort of human technology because he's an orangutan. But he wants it and he craves it and he's like deeply envious of it. So if the overall theme of the story is like learning to accept that everyone has their own like right place, we have different characters who are like more or less willing to appreciate what their place in the jungle is. Because Baloo wants Mowgli to be like his little bear cub friend, but it's like, no, that's a human. He can't be a bear. And then King Louie really wants to be a man more than anything else in the world because he's deeply unhappy with his limitations as an ape. You know,
Yeah. Also, they replaced like they changed the snake Ka to Scarlett Johansson.
It's funny because I was going to look up who did the voice of Ka, and the first thing that came up was Scarlett Johansson, and I'm
Yeah,
trying because I haven't seen the movie, but I'm picturing like the voice she does in
her.
her. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Thank you.
the seductive robot.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh boy, that sounds like it's terrible in every way.
so clearly they leaned into the idea of the Ka fetishists a little bit. John Favreau,
Oh yeah.
he did some research and he was like, no, we got to make Ka sexy. And everybody's just like, what, why? He's like, don't worry about it. It's just
Most
like,
people said why. One person in the back said, "But he's already sexy." Oh lord.
Ugh,
I don't know why
horrifying.
they always seem so keen on identifying with the villains. As you said before, I'm sure I don't know why that is, but seems to be a fairly consistent pattern at this point. Anyway, so yeah, so the story, obviously, the overall thrust is that Mowgli is being taken by Bagheera, who is trying to be the wise fatherly voice of reason. That's like, no, 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 you need to go back with your own kind. But Mowgli doesn't want that. He runs into a whole bunch of people along the way who also don't want that for him. They want different things, right?
Yeah.
And but so that's the overall arc of the story. But it does kind of have a vignette. This is probably a decent balance as far as I'm concerned, with like
Hmm.
little vignettes, little sequences, little set pieces. Meet a bunch of different weird, wacky characters along the way to an overall journey. It's a nice balance between the two. Though I do think, for my personal taste, it's a little bit more vignette oriented than I like my stories to be. Just
Yeah,
slightly.
I might have liked if there was a little more from like if some of these characters came back in different ways,
Yeah,
like
some of them do a little
a
bit. Like
little. So
the
the
elephants come
elephants,
back.
that's the
Yeah,
one where I'm like, okay, like yeah, they're coming back kind of, but like it's
not
really
in a super meaningful way.
not
Yeah.
well, not in a meaningful way for them, really. It's more just a vehicle to get knowledge to Shere Khan than anything.
Yes.
Which is like,
Yeah.
it's all right. Okay. Like, yeah, I mean, I guess if we have to, achieve it somehow, this is a pretty good way of doing it. But I would like some of these characters that he meets along the way to have more influence in the story. Yeah, like at least a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
Um, as it
I mean,
is,
these
not
like
bad.
they're really great vignettes. And also, I think if you're going to make a movie that's a series of little mini set pieces and vignettes and little mini stories like this, also, with a skeleton to hang them on, right? I think keeping it short is the way to go. And one of the things that I really think is great, and I really wish we could bring back, is that this is an hour and 18 minutes long,
It's
I
a
think.
78-minute movie.
That is
Nice and yeah,
excellent. It does
beautiful.
not overstay its welcome. It has exactly that amount of story and no more, and no less, frankly. It has a really I don't really feel like there's really a wasted moment here. It's all fun. It's all like, it's all working towards the overall, vision of the story, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. 78 minutes and we're out. We're done. If it was another 45 minutes, let's say, of these sort of little mini vignettes and little like obstacles along the way that are just done and then we never come back to, that would get really tiresome. So if you got that kind of story, which some stories are just, you know, they're built like that. There's really nothing you can do to avoid it. That's just what some stories are, right? So like, but I think basically you need a stronger through line through your movie the longer the movie is. The longer it goes on, the more that will be important because people will be like, okay, like I realize this is just it's just kind of turning into an and then type situation.
Yeah.
But I think this finds a pretty good balance as far as all things considered.
Hold on now. Okay, apparently, so somebody in the Ephraim Winslow in the chat was talking. He's just ruining my day with everything. Apparently, they added lyrics to the Christopher Walken version of "I Want to Be Like You," so that he uses the term Gigantopithecus. I
Is
guess
that the scientific
the scientific
orangutan
term for a
name?
giant orangutan, I guess, like because it's a type of monkey that was extinct by the time the movie would have been taking place, but he's one of them. That
Weird. Why don't you just make him like I don't know. See, here's the thing. This is why animation is so much better for this kind of story, right? For example, my girlfriend was walking through and she was like, "What kind of bear is Baloo?" And I'm like, "Baloo is a weird cross between an Indian like native sloth bear and like an American, brown or black bear,
yeah,
because they have sloth bears in India. They don't look like our bears here in North America. And so for a North American audience, they kind of split the difference, right? But it's animation, so who cares, right? It's just a good character design.
yeah,
That's what matters. And then you go into live action territory and then you have to be like, "Well, what kind of ape is he?" Blah blah blah. It's just who cares?
yeah.
Who cares?
It
Doesn't
doesn't matter.
matter.
It doesn't fucking
No.
matter.
No,
He's
it
an ape.
certainly does not.
Thematically, he's an ape who wants to be a man. Who cares what kind of ape? Like,
Yeah.
make him any kind. That's like, make him a kind that looks like Louis Prima, for example. Like, let's do that. He's a jazz bear. Yeah, yeah. That's a great kind of summary of Baloo, and I mean he's an orangutan. We kind of know King Louie's an orangutan in this one. He's not a
Yeah.
now. I do
It's
remember
the
that
body
in
type,
the
but the
remake.
face is different. The face is like quite a bit, it doesn't look exactly like an orangutan, right?
Yeah,
They've taken some stylistic liberties with it.
he's having fun. Like we're all having fun here. Okay, like this is yeah. I love the and Baloo also has to be the right kind of bear to convincingly come in a hula disguise
And
and
like
make
an
everybody think he
orangutan
looks like
drag
a yeah
disguise. Yeah.
make everybody think that he could be a gorilla of some kind,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
which is
Like, does he have coconuts or
yeah,
something
he
like
has
that?
coconuts. He puts coconuts over his lips.
It's fun.
It's
It's great.
yeah, I love it. No, I think so. That's another thing the 2016 version did. They added like half an hour of runtime.
Of course they did.
Yeah, that's
They can't,
yeah.
they literally can't help themselves. It's crazy.
We gotta make sure we gotta give Shere Khan more of a terrifying villain story where he kills one of the wolves that raised Mowgli. So that now there's a revenge aspect to Mowgli's showdown with Shere Khan.
That's not necessary in the slightest. Why why would you
But
say that?
I don't know. I feel like the 1967 version really missed out on that. And Jon Favreau corrected it when he came in.
Yeah, okay, so I'm looking at images from the 2016. Yeah, yeah. Like, why is he a literal giant orangutan? Like, what is the point of that?
I,
What does that add? Why can't he just be a normal
why can't
sized
he just be a
orangutan?
monkey? Yeah, why can't he just be a regular
Well, he could just
orangutan?
be an orangutan, but like he's gigantic. He's like literally, like you said, that extinct species that is no longer around anymore.
Yeah. Why
Uh,
did they do that?
why?
Why? Yeah, why?
Why would you do that? What's
What's
the
the fucking point?
I mean,
Like,
what's the point of making the movie fundamentally?
to
But
keep Jon Favreau employed, I guess.
God, it just looks so bad.
Yeah, it's
What a
such a
shame.
waste of time.
So I just saw a funny image of all the monkeys, and they're like trying to give them concerned human expressions. There you go. You can put that on screen for the fine people at home. It's like, oh, we need to show that
Oh.
the random, CGI photorealistic monkeys are concerned, and then they literally all have the same expression. It's very funny. Oh, good. That's incredible.
Oh my god, why John?
John, why would you do this to us?
Oh my god, it's so bad.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of this sort of tangent started because we're talking about how great the character designs are, and it's not just it's the character designs give them a lot of personality, but the big thing that I really noticed here is that the animalistic, like kind of lifelike movements, all the characters in
Oh
this
yeah.
movie move in very different ways that are very natural to how the animals themselves would move, and so that's like a really interesting line to walk, right? Because we're getting because these aren't really representing animals, like, allegorically speaking, these are just human beings in various stages of development, right? It's not really so much about them being animals, right? But they have really stylistic properties that, blue being a weird sort of hybrid sloth bear, brown bear type combination, all that sort of stylistic stuff. But the way they move is actually like really naturalistic to like the way bears move, the way orangutans sort of like climb around using their arms more than their legs. A lot of those movements are really surprisingly sort of like naturalistic and
Well, yeah,
evocative.
because remember, this is from a time when Disney made his animators like watch nature documentaries for
Yeah.
hours to
Yeah.
learn how the animals were going to move,
Yeah.
and to get those motions correct. And
Someone said this looks like an AI meme. It
it
does.
does, yeah.
Uh,
The Little Mermaid remake does this the worst by far. Well, yeah. I mean, say what you will about the AI monkey faces here, which there are a lot of Control C, Control V ones, right? They're not fish. Giving fish emotions is I do not envy the poor animators who had to work on the Little Mermaid remake trying to make fish emote, you know?
Yeah, well, while keeping with the overall vision of the movie, which is fundamentally retarded from the beginning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because you can, there were when The Lion King 2019 came out, people who tried to sort of keep the photorealistic style in terms of how light, moves and how, the fur moves and how the animals move and all that sort of fun stuff. But sort of maintain sort of humanistic ability to express emotions in the faces. And I saw some of those like concept art images and little video tests that people did to try and like basically fix The Lion King 2019, and they're better. They're way better. Like, you just have to be willing to make it a little bit more stylized. But John Favreau was like, no. And so basically,
We really
because he
wanted it to be more
decided,
like a nature documentary because realism is
oh,
what's most important and missing from The Lion King or The Jungle Book.
yeah. Well,
Get out of here,
I
dude.
gave him shit at the very beginning of the stream, but one thing that I very much appreciate YMS saying when he did his like part one review of The Lion King 2019 is he's like talking about the lighting in that movie being very flat,
Yes.
and desaturated. And he's like, John, have you seen pictures of Africa? It's very colorful. And he was just showing images of like, Kenyan or, whatever sunsets and everything. It's like, no, that's actually The Lion King, the 1994, whatever it was. That looks more like
What
how
it looked, yeah.
Africa actually looks. It's very colorful and saturated,
Didn't
and the
they
light is
fly
very
them to
dynamic.
Africa? Like, because the
Yeah,
Disney Renaissance,
yeah,
they were like, "Hey, we're gonna get back to basics. Go to Africa and look at what it's like and draw that."
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Dude,
yeah.
like, yeah, because he flew them all over the place for these. That was his thing. He was like, no, it's quality. We're here for quality. We're here for like we want this to look like good animation, not just some random CGI money grab. I
Yeah. Yeah, and, and it's not like you can't do that in 3D animation. I think, honestly, Finding Nemo is, like, one of the best I've ever seen in terms of, like, how they nail the sort of physics and movement of animals, especially fish,
Yeah.
obviously in that movie. It's
But give them
unbelievably good. Like,
personalities on their face and everything at the
yes,
same time. Yeah, that's a
yes,
brilliant needle to thread in that movie.
yeah,
Yeah. They do
yeah,
a pretty good job. Honestly, A Bug's Life does a pretty good job, like as maybe the like the proto Finding Nemo, right? For like humanizing the ants. One of the
sure.
I think they do a pretty good job with that.
Yeah, absolutely. But underrated movie, by the way. People don't always talk about that one as much, but
Oh yeah, no,
really, really, really good.
Bugs Life gets no love, but it is a
It's a
solid.
shame.
Yeah.
It's excellent movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, where were we?
Filthy Casual just said, I still think CGI animals could be stylized and expressive.
Absolutely, they
I mean,
could.
at the very least, we just talked about two where they are, right? Like
Yeah.
Finding Nemo and Bugs Life. But
Part
I've
of
seen some internet edits of, not the Jungle Book remake, but the Lion King remake, where they did redo the photorealistic lions as just more CGI versions of the original animations, and it looks 1,000% better.
I agree because I said that like 10 minutes ago,
Yeah,
but I'm glad you agree.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yes. I'm glad we're on the same page.
Oh no, have I
Yeah,
become
you
the
can.
rags of our stream?
Oh, no. I know there's only two of us. We can't really
We
let
can't.
this
Yeah, we
happen.
can't. Yeah, no, I've got to pay more attention.
We gotta listen to each other. It's the only way. Um, yeah, I think there's obviously something to be said that, if there are no human characters, you can get a bit more stylized with the animals without having some weird uncanny valley gap. I think maybe if you have a live action human being, there's probably a limit to how stylized the animals can get. Does that make sense? I think
Yeah,
there might be something there. But, fundamentally, they should just not have made these movies in the first place. I think that maybe goes without saying at this point. But you can do it better than this. That's absolutely
that's
true.
for damn sure. Yeah. But yeah, I guess we were talking about, we were just kind of rolling
Yeah, we're
through
talking about
here.
character designs and movement and all that sort of
Right.
fun
Yeah.
stuff.
So like the
Speaking
elephants
of,
each
speaking
have their
of,
individual.
I was really impressed with one thing that really jumped out to me about the animation in this is that Mowgli's movements
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
felt unbelievably real. Like, especially when he kind of goes off on his own for the first time when Bagheera's like, "Fine, you want to stay in the jungle? Fuck off. I don't care. I'm gonna leave." And so he leaves, and then Mowgli is sort of kind of having fun climbing over stuff at first, but then immediately he starts to get bored and then lonely and then he's sad. Like that
Yeah.
transition of like a little kid just kind of like smacking things as he passes them and all that sort of stuff. I was like, "Oh, that just feels unbelievably
Yeah.
accurate and well depicted."
It
It's
reminded me of
very
the kids in
human.
Song of the South, the way that they, right? Or
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they had watched some of that back, to get the animation.
Yeah. They just it felt very perceptive. I think that's what's really impressive about animation to me is like how they can be so perceptive of like the details of movement in a way of like that you
Hmm.
never think about, but then when you see it, you're like, that is exactly what it looks like. That's it's just they're incredibly talented.
Yeah.
Incredibly talented. Animation's not really a thing I know a ton about, so it's all magic to me when I see it. I see it, I'm just like, wow, you know, this is a really interesting movie. I think maybe more than any of his movies to date. Jungle Book feels the most like an elevated Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah, that's a good descriptor. I
I
like
think
that.
there's a lot of like watercolors and like there's a lot of sort of like it's flat, but not in a terrible way. It's like, especially those famous like running sequences where like, it's all kind of 2D in that way.
Hmm.
Um, like, in space, not just the way it's animated. But I would describe this as like an elevated Saturday morning cartoon in the best way possible. Like it has a really distinct style that is not like, Sleeping Beauty. It's not like 101 Dalmatians. It feels like they're very much influenced by the popularity of like cartoon shows that were coming up in the like late 50s and early 60s. And so this feels a little bit like, oh, we got this like fun, whimsical adventure for kids. Cartoons are really popular. Maybe there's a way we can sort of like bring in a bit of that visual language and tone and everything like that, but give it the Disney treatment with all the money, that Disney had to spend on animation and everything like that. I think
Yeah,
it's really successful. That's one of the things I find most remarkable going through all these Disney movies, that they actually have quite a bit of variety in the visual style,
yeah,
you know?
that's very true. Yeah, this looks very different from Your Lady and the Tramp. You know.
Yes, it really does. And not just because the style is evolving, right? Because this looks very different from 101 Dalmatians, which is like one of the most recent ones, right?
Hmm.
That felt very 60s, very kind of like mod, I don't know, whatever you call that visual style.
I think mod
This,
is the word. Yeah,
yeah,
for 101 Dalmatians, that would definitely be a mod one. But then Peter Pan has more of the Peter Pan has some similarities with this because there's scenes that I can really kind of only describe it as belonging in a storybook.
yeah,
Like when you open like an old fashioned one that you would have like your grandfather would have for reading to the kids, right? But then there's the differences between this and Sleeping Beauty, which look like a medieval tapestry, and then Sword in the Stone, which has some of that Sleeping Beauty element as well, but not quite as much, right? Like, I
yeah.
think, yeah, or Alice in Wonderland. There's just there's a lot of variety in these ones that are like they are pretty close together. I mean, it's a good solid decade between some of them, but they're changing it up based
Based on the
on
story,
the
based on the
story
audience.
and the
Yeah.
audience and what themes they're going for. And that's something that I think, I mean, clearly an underrated aspect of it that people,
Yeah, I
you know,
think, there's a lot of talk about the Disney style, and obviously these like you can identify them all as a Walt Disney production by looking at them for sure, because partly because he was so influential and pioneering and all that, but like they really do differ quite a bit. And I think that's, a point in the movie's favor. I mean, obviously, you look at this and like cute animals doing cute things is obviously something that shows up in a lot of Disney stuff. But the way the animals are treated in this is very different than it is in, Snow White, for example. There's a
yeah,
lot more attention to detail in terms of like the way they move physically, and it's not just they're not all just cute, right? Some of them are actually rather menacing, and they have very distinct personalities, but like it's still fun. Like what just showed up on screen for me in the background is when the elephants are, he's doing the inspections, right? And like his eye gets bigger when he's looking more closely down the elephant's trunk and stuff like that. I
yeah,
don't know. It's I was really impressed with this movie. I think it looks really good, but is not trying as how do I say this? It's not going for like pretty as much as some other previous Disney movies
yeah.
are,
That's
because
a
it
yeah.
feels
That's a
it's
good word.
trying to be it's trying to be fun and adventurous, and I think it really nails that.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think it does, and it like so the opening shots do kind of try to capture some of it, right? And there are the big landscapes where Mowgli, the scene where Mowgli you were just talking about, where Mowgli is walking around and smacking things with the stick. They still do in the backgrounds with the waterfall or the big white rocks or the sun rises over the jungle. They do give it a element of that sort of allure,
Picturesque,
right? Yeah,
beautiful.
picturesque allure for being like it's an exotic location. It's the jungle. It's
Mhm.
beautiful but dark and mysterious, and it has like
Yeah,
the music
it
does a good
starts
job
that way
selling
for
that
sure. It
too.
does. Yeah,
But by the time we get into it, it's like no, we're having fun. This is what
yeah,
we're having fun out here, and like
yeah.
the jungle kind of slaps. They
Yeah,
got
there's
jazz
this
and monkeys. Like, let's go.
in the beginning, with the classic sort of title sequence overture at the beginning, which we're crediting the voice actors now. I'm very glad to see that.
Yes.
Um, we're moving in a really interesting, like kind of 3D way through these animated environments in a way that sort of like evokes the mystery and the exoticism and all that sort of stuff. But once we really get into it, things are flatter, in a way that I'm sure is a bit cheaper for them, but it doesn't feel cheap. It just feels like, we're going for more of a cartoon thing now in the best way possible. It doesn't feel like they spared any expense, but it feels like a lot of the backgrounds are kind of like flat and two-dimensional in a way that I actually think works really well.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I found it remarkable.
there's a lot of mourning, I would say, in the chat for the talent at Disney's animation studio. Uh,
Well, yeah,
I
see
yeah,
here, yeah, I think that's true. Well, I mean, there that's a whole bigger conversation of like why they don't do this anymore. Like the ultimate question is whether they could if they wanted to. I mean,
yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
if the
didn't Princess
will
and the
and the
Frog do
appetite
it?
if the will and the appetite were there, animators working today could watch these movies and then imitate them.
Yeah,
It's just that there is very little incentive to do so, so they don't. You know what I mean?
yeah,
If someone basically it's gonna take someone like a Walt Disney type from the top down to be like, "Here's my vision. We're gonna bring back this 2D animation style, and I'm gonna pump money into it, and we're gonna really focus on, compelling stories for the family that everyone's gonna like, so that way we know they'll make money, but we really wanna go back to this classic era of Disney." And then they hire a bunch of people, and then, like, there are still talented animators, right? A lot of them are just being put to use on crap.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it
True.
and there's and to make a 2D animated movie like this, you need a lot of capital and resources and willingness to risk that on a project that might fail, right? And it's not like the technology has really disappeared. We just, don't make movies like this anymore, but we could at any point. Anyone could be like, "Yeah, I'm going to raise this amount of money and I'm going to risk it to make this kind of 2D animated Disney movie, and I'm going to make a kind of story that they would have told back then, not just the animation style." Like it's not impossible. The talent is there.
Well, and
You,
I don't believe that Disney got every single good classic storybook. And like I feel
yeah,
there's got to be more out there. There's
yeah,
no way that he's like he just had like got them all on the first pass. Like no, I don't buy it. Like and even if he did, The Lion King isn't from one of those, right? But that
yeah,
and it's clearly it's happened before, right? Because we're about to enter, this is the last one of what is called the Silver Age of Disney's animated features. We're about to enter into the Bronze Age movies, and then their whole like really bad run in the 80s and early
hmm
90s, leading up to the Renaissance, where they kind of go back to the roots,
yeah.
and bring it, bring these techniques back into what they're doing. So it's possible that it could happen again, right? It's just that Lilo and Stitch live action needs to stop making $1 billion, and Frozen 2 needs to stop making $1 billion, and like imitating Pixar needs to stop being the meta. A lot of things have to line up for that to, it-
Trayvon Washington said that Camp of the Saints has never been made into a movie. Can't Camp of the Saints
I
in a
don't
2D animated Disney style. I think it would break the world if that happened. That would just be that would be that'd be a lot. That would be very interesting. No, but I think it's also worth remembering because people might think it's sort of like unprecedented or hard to imagine how we go back to the way we used to do things, right? But I think what's worth remembering is that when Disney came out with Snow White, that was going back to an old-fashioned way of telling stories. Because what was really popular around the time, in terms of animation especially, was like that Max Fleischer, Betty Boop stuff,
yeah.
which is very kind of like, strange and subversive and kind of cynical. And he's not the only one, but like a lot of animators of that period had a sort of like edge to them, and they were really interested in weird, strange, kind of subversive stuff. And then Disney comes along and comes up with Snow White, and it's going back to the fairy tale. It's going back to a very wholesome approach to storytelling, and it does absolutely gangbusters, right? And then now we think about like, oh, that's just always how we made movies, but actually, it was kind of a bold move when Disney did it to begin with. considering
That's
where
true.
culture
Yeah.
was moving at the time. So I think that's worth remembering too, is that like, we've already seen this happen.
Yeah,
We've
so we
seen
do need
we've
we just need somebody who has some balls. We can't have the guy who brought us every Marvel movie since Endgame at the head of it. We need
Yeah,
somebody else.
especially for a 2D animated feature. Like those are just not things you can really do on a low budget easily. Like cuz in terms of like, trying to make better movies cuz we're in such a, cultural rut and decline right now. You can make better movies now if you're willing to make them for not a lot of money, and that's much, because it's getting easier and easier. It's still expensive, but it's getting way easier to make feature films, live action feature films for cheap, right?
Yep.
You can make a movie for less than $1 million. That sounds like a lot, but it used to be much higher, right? And so like, there are low budget success stories that have sort of shaped sort of eras of filmmaking. We've seen quite a bit of those, and we could have another one of those, and it wouldn't actually require a ton of sort of like risk and capital up front. But to bring back 2D animated Disney movies in this sort of like wholesome and aspirational and heroic and family oriented, uncynical style of early Disney, that would just you would need it from the top down. You would need people, I think, to sort of take over Disney again, or take over, change directions for DreamWorks or one of these companies, and sort of like, work from within the already built companies and system, instead of like having a low budget indie success story on the side. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that just makes it a little bit harder, but I think it's possible. And I think, you know, short term, I think it's reasonable to be pessimistic about the short term possibility of things turning around in that regard. But I think in the long term, there's good reason to be optimistic about it. So
Yeah, well,
we'll see what
somebody's
happens.
gonna have to play it because such a it's such a wide it's such a there's such a dearth of it right now, right? Of this kind of movie, of a 2D animated, wholesome family movie, and people are coming back to one of the reasons why people come back to Lilo and Stitch, right? Is because it's not really because they want to see it. Like I think this is pretty well accepted, right? It's not really because they want to see it in live action. It's not because people are like, oh yeah, no, I remember Lilo and Stitch, and what I always felt it was missing was real people, right? Then that like they're not going to the Lion King reboot because they've always felt that the Lion King would be just a little bit better if it all looked photorealistic instead of animated. A lot
Yeah.
of it is mostly just because, oh, it's yeah, I remember that. I liked
They
that.
want a
I
good
want to
movie to
see it
see
again.
with their
Yeah.
kids in the theater. That's what they want.
Yeah.
And, they're responding to, I liked Lilo and Stitch, and maybe they would see Lilo and Stitch if it just re-released in theaters, but more people are going to see the remake because it's new, and there's
Yeah.
then like, oh, but it's a new thing. People like new things in our culture, right? So, like, I think, Jay Jameson is saying, I don't know how you make that happen with the investor mindset. They don't want to do these long-term things. Basically, I think the way you convince the business people to sort of go in this direction again is say like, listen, there's an appetite for this, and we could make a lot of money. like,
Yeah.
honestly, because if instead of Lilo and Stitch, there was a new animated Disney movie that looked good. I mean, obviously it needs to look good. Everything is downstream of that, right? So that looked good and looked like it was a fun, because people don't really, except for people of a certain age that just haven't learned that they can't trust Disney anymore. People are no longer trusting the Disney brand to be a reliable like indicator of like something that they can take their kids to and it will be good, like it'll be wholesome and it'll be good for them and all that sort of stuff. They're losing that more and more and more and more and more. Right. And so if they sort of went back to the way they told stories, but it's not even necessarily about the 2D animation. Obviously, we would really like to see a renaissance of 2D animation because it's beautiful and it's great. But even if we just got back to a more old-fashioned mode of storytelling, I think that would be really good.
Yeah.
And also, it takes someone who's like Trust me, I think this will make a lot of money actually, and they won't have reason to believe it because they'll think people will think it's old-fashioned and it won't do well, right? But it could. It absolutely could. You
Dude,
just need some risk takers at the top. If you're going to operate within an existing animation or, film studio system, you need a few risk takers at the top, right? And
yeah.
that's totally possible, but I just don't see it happening anytime soon
Well,
for
and
them.
especially not because okay, so I was curious because I do remember, and this is one of the last ones that we are going to touch on when we get through to the end of this arc. But the Princess and the Frog, that was a 2011 release of a 2D animated princess film, by Disney, and this is that apparently had much more of an influence on what was going to end up happening than I realized. So it did it had a budget of $105 million reported, and it made
That's
about
a lot.
$271 million at the box
Okay.
office, right? So it did way better than Emperor's New Groove, Atlantis the Lost Empire, Treasure Planet, Brother Bear, or Home on the Range, any of those other 2D ones. But it had a considerably less it had considerably less success than any of the ones from the Disney Renaissance, right? It was compared more to The Great Mouse Detective, which we're going to, talk about eventually. But because it, didn't make as much money as they had hoped, they changed the title of Tangled to Tangled from Rapunzel and completely,
Uh,
shifted gears towards doing more of the Pixar imitation with
yeah.
Tangled and Frozen. But here's the thing, Avatar came out the week after.
Mm,
So it released
okay.
in December. It's a bad time for a 2D animated like an original 2D animated movie, and Avatar came out 1 week later. So it feels like they learned the wrong lesson from that, because it's
Yeah.
like, oh, this did way better than the all the other 2D animated ones that we were trying to push last decade. It did a really good job, but it didn't make what we wanted, so let's just switch over to 3D and release them during the summer instead. But, well, okay, maybe if you tried releasing the 2D ones during the summer, they would also have a considerable more
Yeah.
success if you're not competing for the box office with fucking, like, at the time, the biggest movie in the world. Like,
Yeah. And the other thing that's probably worth mentioning here is that, like, to the degree that 2D animated movies were competing with Pixar movies, right? Like,
yeah,
I think people overestimate how much, like, people loved those Pixar movies because of the 3D animation. Just because they're really, really good
yeah,
stories. That was the thing. If The Incredibles was 2D animated, people would still love it. You know what I
yeah.
mean? It's just that good of a story. And I think that obviously, you know, 3D is a bit more cost effective, especially these days, right?
Days. I don't know though.
So
I
it's
don't
like
know because I feel like you can make a 2D anime. Maybe not hand animated, but you can do it. You can do a 2D animated style with a computer, and it's got to be
yeah,
cheaper than like
you
at
would think so.
least
I'm not
as
really an
yeah.
expert on that, but you would think so for sure. We're getting great animated movies now, like Animal Farm. Oh my God, Hugh, have you heard anything
Oh
about
fuck.
this?
Isn't Andy Serkis supposed to be in that, or is he directing it? I can't remember.
I think he directed it. So
Hmm.
I've heard a lot of really terrible things about it. I
I
think what's
wonder.
one of the things that's most interesting about it, other than like, I wouldn't even say, okay, I haven't seen the movie, but it seems not so much like they didn't understand the point of Animal Farm, but they did, and they're subverting it. Like that's what it seems like. I've heard some of the comparisons between them. Like, uh, have you read Animal Farm?
I once, yeah, back in high school. I remember. I mean, I remember it as a critique of collectivism, right?
Yeah,
That's
and
yeah,
communism and all that sort of Soviet communism, especially. But okay, so there's a in Animal Farm, the book, there is like a story that the pigs tell of the horse who like nobly sacrificed himself. Do you remember that?
yeah.
Well, and in the book, that's just propaganda that the pigs do because really the horse like worked him to death He died like a meaningless, awful death because Animal Farm's not really for kids, guys.
Yeah.
but in the movie, I saw the clip that like there's a scene in the movie of the horse doing the heroic sacrifice.
Huh. We sure they're subverting it, or is because Seth Rogen is first build on the voice cast? Maybe he just actually can't read.
Well, I don't know. The intentionality seems, I don't know, suspect. People can argue about whether they're doing it necessarily on purpose or not, but like they're making the movie that the pigs would make. Like that's
Interesting.
how it reads, which is really interesting in a way. And also it's really, I think what's really interesting in a meta sense is that it's being released by Angel Studios, who didn't produce the movie, but
Wait,
they're
really?
yeah, the Sound of Freedom, they do a lot of,
They
faith-based
yeah,
stuff.
everybody, literally everybody in my new office has been raving about the Great Awakening movie that they put out.
I don't know anything about that, but yeah, so they are distributing the movie. And not only are they distributing the movie, which is like weirdly pro-communist and like subverting intentionally or otherwise what Animal Farm is actually about, but like people are criticizing it, and Angel Studios is making like weird ads like trying to make fun of the people criticizing it and like calling the people criticizing it the pigs. They're like weird, like, because I guess they're desperate for this to work out for them. They're like really doubling down. It's it's fascinating, we'll say that.
That's a very strange turn. So no, sorry, it wasn't the Great Awakening movie. That's a different studio. It was David. That's the one that all of the people in my new
Okay, yeah,
office have
yeah.
been talking about. Was like very good. They all enjoyed that. But their their animations have been The King of Kings, David, and now Animal Farm. That's their
Yeah, I mean,
what?
it's an odd choice to make Animal Farm into an animated movie anyway, but like there's a way you can make that work. But like they're literally, well, they didn't make it; they're distributing it, as far as I understand. And but not only is this like the company that that put out Sound of Freedom making an Animal Farm movie, but they're like distributing one that has clearly turned an anti-communist message into an anti-capitalist message, and it's just like you guys have like no sense at all. Like, what are you doing? Did no one like? Is no one at Angel
But for
Studios
Angel
even capable?
Studios to
Like,
say
is it?
like to put out an anti-capitalist,
It's really strange. I don't understand what's going on there exactly. I
that's
don't listen. I don't know a whole lot about Angel Studios except for like what I see them put out, and so this seems like the last thing they would do, at least on the surface. Maybe I'm missing something, but very strange.
that who yeah. Why are we doing the? Why are they speed running the Gillette razors like downfall?
I don't know.
What is going on?
Very weird.
They were
Very,
they
very
like
strange.
because they've got momentum, like
A little,
cultural
yeah, they had
momentum
some,
right now.
yeah,
They
there's
have that.
a little bit for sure. More than a lot of these sort of does it
Like
even make sense
faith
to call them
based.
right wing,
Yeah.
faith-based sort of studios do. Obviously, The Sound of Freedom was big for them. I don't know if David did well. I looked at him like that looks cringe, and so I didn't watch it. But
Yeah. Oh yeah, but The Chosen was a really popular TV show that they
yeah,
released too.
I didn't
Yeah.
see that either, but I have, people like they were like releasing like episodes or couple episodes at a time in theaters for that. Interesting, and they kept doing
I
it, so
mean,
it
yeah,
must
they
have
were
been
making
doing
money. I
well.
know they were.
Yeah,
Like, there's a what a surprise. There's a big audience who really, really wants more Ben Hur Ten Commandments type content to
yeah,
take their parents and their kids to see. They want it to be a
yeah.
whole family thing, like
This is
grandparents,
this is
like
Hugh's new
generations.
thing, by the way. Hugh's new thing is we got to bring back sword and
We
sandal
got
epics.
no. I agree. I no. That is my thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Sorry.
glad
Yeah.
you agree with
I
yourself.
agree
I
with
agree with
myself.
yourself
Yeah,
too.
yeah, no, we got to
Yeah,
bring back these sword and sandal movies, dude. I think Hollywood has severely, severely underestimated the cultural capital that they are just wasting by not releasing some kind of it doesn't even have to be biblical, but if you released a sword and sandals type movie on Easter weekend, you would make so much money.
Yeah.
So much
Well,
fucking money.
yeah, and that's how you can tell, by the way, if anyone ever wants to argue that, like, see, the problem with movie studios is that they're just greedy capitalists and they're just greedy and they just want to make more money. They just care about the bottom line. They don't care about making good art. And it's like, well, no, because then they would make stuff that a lot of mainstream Americans actually want to see. But they don't do that because they don't like mainstream Americans and they don't like what they want to see. So they're going to give them what they think they ought to want to see instead.
Yeah.
So there's a problem that is running far deeper than the like, oh, they're just too greedy. It's like, no, if they're greedy, they would be pumping out like well produced, star studded, like genuinely sort of heroic and decently faithful sword and sandals epics, especially biblical ones, and they'd release them on Easter weekend and they do crazy numbers, right?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
because everybody like the TV
And
channels
Alec,
here. What's the sorry, real quick before because I saw
yeah,
that
yeah,
and I do want
yeah,
to talk
yeah.
about that too. But what's the NBC or ABC? The big one of those big three cable channels. Still to this day, every year on Easter weekend plays the Ten Commandments, and it gets crazy viewership numbers.
Yeah,
Like great viewership numbers because that's what
yeah.
people want to see at that time. Just
Yes.
like put Ben-Hur, like it do something with it. Yeah, but now
Yeah.
Ephraim pointed out too is like, oh, you could be forgiven for thinking that the reason that they're not banking in on it is because they want to erode it. And
Yeah,
hey,
I mean,
you know what?
that's
That's
it. Yeah,
yeah.
that is just straight up. They don't like what people, it's like when you and this is just a very consistent pattern, especially for like left-wing culture makers in general, is that like the one thing they can't abide more than anything else is what people actually want to see. They don't like what people want to see. They don't think they should want to see those things. They want, they're like, well, people should want to see what I want them to see. And so they just, they're trying to force that. They're trying to force the issue there. And they get, it's like, there's nothing, for example, just, to illustrate the point, there is nothing that feminists despise more than the revealed preferences of actual women. You know what I mean? Like,
The
there's
women
nothing.
crave rom-coms.
The women crave rom-coms, exactly. There are many such examples of this. People want cool. And so let's talk about sword and sandals epics because there actually is one coming out this year, and it's
Oh
called The
boy.
Odyssey.
Christopher
And I think,
Nolan's The Odyssey.
yeah, I think it will probably do well because the appetite is there for that. And I don't. I think a lot of people. I think this could be the movie that ruins his reputation. Honestly, because he still has a pretty high reputation among
Well,
people, and
pretty much every normie loved Oppenheimer.
yeah,
Yeah, I think like
ugh,
among those who know, right? Those of us here who pay attention to these things, close attention to these things, we know that he's slipping, right? His blank check movie deal to make whatever the fuck he wants, whenever the fuck he wants, for however much fucking money he wants. We know that that's slipping because Interstellar was not great and Tenet sucked, and Oppenheimer was actually kind of a mess. But I think most normal people, like normal, just like nine, not even 9 to 5, more the people who just plug into movies because they're like, it's something to go do, every when it's a rainy weekend kind of thing, right?
they still remember going to see Inception
Yeah.
opening weekend and being like, "Wow, that was
Wow, what a
awesome."
great movie! I haven't watched it since it came out, but man, Christopher Nolan's such a great director.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Listen, I mean, Inception's a fun, bombastic movie, but it's not his best. Anyway,
yeah,
yeah, you're totally right, though.
it's The
I think
Prestige.
it's yeah,
It's The
yeah,
Prestige. That's his best. Anyway, yeah, no, I think that this like I think for most people, they're gonna go see it and just come away from it being like, "Yeah, that was good. I liked it." It's because it's like it's a modern sword and sandals thing. What it's not gonna do is give you the color and the full just scope of experience that you're getting from watching one of the older ones, like a Ben-Hur or
yeah.
like a Ten
I mean, it
Commandments.
could be, and that's what's such a shame
Yeah.
about it. You know what I mean? Like, I would really love to see a massive, big budget studio epic of the Odyssey. That would be cool. I would like to see that. this is not going to be that. I think this, from what I've seen, it almost seems like an insult to call it the Odyssey. But we'll see. I'm gonna see it, because I have to know, but I don't have high hopes for it. I think that, and it was like, first of all, the color being a big thing. Like, I don't know, like making the Odyssey look dull is really kind of an impressive feat. If,
Yeah.
if you think about it like that, it is really quite impressive that you make the Odyssey look like washed out and desaturated and like it's not actually fun and cool.
Yeah. You gave one of the
Impressive.
gladiators the Bane mask as a Greek helmet, you know.
Yeah,
Eh,
I don't know, man. People are like, oh, but if you showed the actual historical costumes, people would think it looks weird. It's like, no, they won't.
no, they won't, because they want to see
They
that.
really don't. They'd be like, huh, that's not what I expected it to look like. But then, like 5 minutes into the movie, they'll have totally acclimated to it.
Okay, hold on,
Obviously, don't have high hopes for that one.
I'm gonna find an image of what what I'm. Yeah, see,
The
okay.
Bane mask with like
No, no,
the
no. I'm
vertebrae in the
finding
back.
the original, like, photos from the original Ben Hur with just like Roman legionaries in armor, right? Like, it's bright, it's colorful. They're wearing bronze and red. They shine in the light. It
They
doesn't
shine
look,
like the sun
yeah,
too.
they're burnished and shine like the sun. There's intricacy on the chest, the breastplates that they're wearing. I it, I, I'm pulling it up. I'm gonna pull it up right now because it's just like, why are we doing this dead black leather? Like we want it to look like Game of Thrones, yeah, but on a slightly higher budget, right? Like, why are we
There's a
doing
general
this?
sort of cynicism and antipathy towards the past because we obviously everyone here, modern liberal people, we need to believe that progress is a, linear straight line from the past. We are better and more advanced. We need to believe that because if we showed a cool historical epic that where people saw things like that's actually way better and way cooler than
Yeah.
than what we have now, that would break the illusion.
I mean, what's wrong
Can't
with
have that.
dressing them like? I mean, I know they're Romans in this movie, right? They're not Greeks, but who cares? Yeah, like, we're not paying that close of attention. What's wrong with dressing them like that?
Yeah,
With
I
like
mean, I would
silver
love
armor
to
with like
see.
cool, cool gold patterns.
Listen, I would like the more historically accurate sort of bronze armor. I think it's cool and neat, and I want to see what they actually looked like. Like that's interesting to me. If, on the other hand, we got inaccurate Roman armor that looked like this and it was colorful and bright and beautiful and awesome looking, I would prefer that to what we're actually getting in his movie. You know what I mean? There's levels to it. I'm interested in the historically accurate perspective because I think because the first time I saw what Greek armor looked like at the time, roughly that this story would take place, I was like, oh, that's really out there and cool and different. Like those giant, almost like tube-like bronze things, like and the hats made out of the teeth. Like that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's really cool. I want to see that. I would obviously settle for historically inaccurate Roman looking stuff. If it was bright and colorful and polished and all that sort of stuff, that would be better.
yeah. Well, and like at the time of the Odyssey, this is a lot of militia armies, right? And so a lot of them are going to have things from a bunch of different eras because it's just stuff that's been passed down. And they're
Yeah.
being called up because their farms and their land is. It's like, hey, this is what you got to do. You got to come and
Hmm.
fight for us because otherwise, it, we'll take it. So there would have been a lot of really there would have been a lot of like variety. There would have been a lot of different cultural things. Everybody from one village might have some thing that ties them together. It's kind of
Yeah.
like a pickup hockey game where like everybody has different different gear. I want to see more like that. I want to
Yeah,
see
but it would all
some.
be polished and
Yeah.
well maintained and like, they would take pride in it and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I think there's a real appetite for this sort of movie. Like many things, like there's an appetite for rom-coms, there's an appetite for like wholesome and fun 2D animated Disney movies, there's an appetite for all of these things, and there's a bottom up appetite for them, and then people at the top are just not interested, mostly for ideological reasons, in giving it to people. But the first person who's going to decide, who's already at the top and has leverage and the ability to exert their will over these giant institutions, who says, actually, I don't really care about the ideological stuff, I want to make money, they'll they can be successful at any time. Like, the ground has been laid, the opportunities are right there, right in your face. And like for some of these things, obviously a big blockbuster sword and sandals epic, that's a more expensive affair. You can't really do that bottom up indie level so much. But like, I don't know, the first person who decides, like, I actually don't really care about like deriding what people actually want, I want to give people what they want and make money. I think this is I have mild optimism for Paramount, because they have at least signaled that they're interested in this sort of thing. Like, from what I understand from reporting and the way they talk about the kind of movies they want to make, is they're like, we want more Top Gun Maverick. And it's like, okay,
Yeah,
that's a start. That is
that's
a
something.
start. And they, for all the faults and criticisms people might have of Taylor Sheridan shows, they are interested in him and making more stuff like that because they know it appeals to like middle of America people, and they want to make things that appeal to middle of America people. Whether they'll do a good job of it anytime soon, eh, jury's out. But I have mild optimism for the future of Paramount as far as the major studios are concerned. I have no optimism for Disney, and I have absolutely none for Netflix.
Well, no, I
In
think
terms of,
Disney's gonna have to take another big hit before they actually take a good long look at themselves in the mirror.
I
And
think so. We'll see what happens with Mandalorian and Grogu, and
well,
obviously we'll see what
mhm.
happens with Doomsday. That'll be the big
Avengers
one, right?
Doomsday.
That'll
What
be the big one.
a fascinating. Yeah, that's going to be the make or break, right? For what happens, just because they've already clearly acknowledged that everything they've done since Endgame was a mistake by basically just saying like, well, this is just a direct sequel to Endgame.
You don't need
Nothing
to
in
worry about
between.
any of that
You
other
don't need to
stuff. I
worry
mean,
about any of
obviously,
the other stuff in between, except obviously the Fantastic Four. They're going to be in it, and also the Thunderbolts are going to be in it. But you don't have to watch the movies because we're going to re-release Endgame with a bunch of new footage added so that you can contextualize and just roll straight from Endgame into this.
man,
Reeks of desperation.
can you smell it? Can you smell the desperation? I can. It's unbelievable. I think that'll be honestly, that'll be more important to the future of Disney than
Mandalorian
Mandalorian
and
and
Grogu.
Grogu.
Yeah,
But yeah, let's hope it underperforms. I mean, let's hope it completely flops. I doubt it, but let's hope
I
it
doubt.
completely
Well,
flops.
I don't know, man. It's gonna cost. It looks like it's already costing like upwards of $1 billion. Like it might be $1 billion movie.
Including marketing. Yeah,
Yeah, including marketing. Well, and
yeah.
given the way that they shoot everything, I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up like being closer to 1.2, 1.5 after all of it is said and done. Like
Yeah, yeah, I'm hoping it's a total disaster. I would love that. And I think that would be good for our culture if Doomsday is a complete disaster financially.
yeah,
I doubt it will be. I think it'll be more of like oh, number on box office is higher than number on reported budget, therefore success. It'll be that kind of thing where only people who understand like a lick of how the movie industry works, who understand that, like, well, the theater takes half of that, right? Only those people will actually understand that the movie might actually have lost money.
yeah.
Everyone else will be like, everyone else that is who's like shilling for it, who wants it to be successful, will be like, look, number bigger. And I just have a gut feeling that that's how it's going to be. It's not going to make 2 billion for sure. I could see it maybe making like 1.5, but like that's not going to cut it.
No,
I don't think that's going to cut it.
no, I
I would
don't think.
love it. I would love it if it only made like 900,000 or something like that. That would be like
Oh, dude,
oh,
yeah, no. If it absolutely
what a
flopped,
disaster.
yeah. Well, that would be the healthiest thing for Disney and for the film industry overall, because then they would actually have to stop and take a really really hard look at themselves and go
Hmm.
like, what are we what can
What are
we
we
do?
doing?
What are we doing?
What can we?
What can we
Yeah,
how can we salvage this? That's
yeah.
what that is the most optimistic scenario for Doomsday, is that it's the wake up call that Hollywood needs to start like
Well, it'll be the wake up call. It ought to be the wake up call. Whether they answer the call, that'll be another question. Because they might just pull the ripcord and be like, we're resetting the universe. And this time with the X-Men. You'll watch that, right? Ha 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 ha.
we
They'll
brought
do
all the
that.
X-Men back. Look, Nightcrawler's back, guys. Alan Cumming is back as Nightcrawler. He's old and flabby now, but he's back as Nightcrawler. Don't you love that? Didn't you want that back in the fucking third movie?
It's okay that you're still bitter about it. I understand.
Well, you know what? They fucked it up.
Darkington, thank you very much for the super chat. We
Yes.
appreciate it. No message, but sometimes less is more.
Hey,
Sometimes,
the number is
we
up, so
appreciate you.
therefore.
Thank you so much.
I mean, J. Jameson is. Are people still insisting that Superman was a success? I think they are. You know,
Well, I don't know if they would have changed their tune, but they stopped saying it,
well,
which means
they're basically. I think they were like, no, no, no. It's like it's a moral victory.
yeah.
That was
Honestly, but like, listen, that's how they view a lot of things these days. We were talking about it. It's like they're not really interested in being greedy capitalists so much. They're interested in like completely reshaping the culture for ideological reasons. So it's like, like a lot of this is like loss leader type stuff. Obviously they want it to make money. They think it ought to make money. They think it ought to be what people really want to see, but it's not as it turns out. But you
yeah,
can't play that game forever, right? I think part of the problem is I think part of the attitude is sort of baked into the streaming model because I think the first streaming platform turned a profit in 2023. I think I
yeah.
remember reading that. Don't quote me on it, but it's something like that. Most of them were operating at a loss.
What are we
For the
doing?
vast majority of the streaming boom, they were operating at a loss. And many of them are still operating at a loss, right? Individual movies, being successes and otherwise. The streaming platforms were not, and they were just like infinite growth. We'll just keep making stuff and we'll keep getting more subscribers and it'll never stop. And so it doesn't ever actually need to make money because we'll just keep getting more investors. And it's like, well, that obviously crapped out. I mean, I'm seeing that firsthand here, living as I am in Georgia, where they used to film a lot more things than they do now because they stopped making as many things because they had to tighten their purse
Yeah.
strings. And of
Well,
course, they're tightening their purse strings in the stupidest ways possible. That's a given. It's way worse in LA than it is in Georgia. At least they're still filming some things in Georgia. That's nice. But it's an
because
interesting time.
LA is impossible to film in with how expensive. Like, there's
Oh God,
yeah,
yeah, it's bad.
yeah.
It's really bad, and I feel a little bad for him because the thing is, obviously, I kind of hate LA's entire culture and ethos now, but it is the best place to make movies in a logistical sense. You have the best weather, and California has such a varied landscape. It became the movie making capital for a reason, right? And I think in a in when we win, we'll say that when we win, LA will return to its former glory. But that's a
Can you imagine
that's a
just like
ways off.
how the best possible thing to happen to the LA movie this would be somebody buys out, like one of the studio lots and just
Hmm.
starts letting like just being like, nah, it's cheap. You can rent it for cheap
Yeah,
because then like everybody is just like, oh yeah, 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 okay. Like you'll get way more. It's so silly how they've completely tanked their ability to make movies.
yeah, it's really bad. It's really stupid, and they're
What did
really dumb for
everybody
doing
move
it.
there for?
It's a good question.
It's like
It is a
it's a
good
city
question.
full of waiters because like
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. I don't know.
so anyway, the Jungle Book.
So anyway, well, maybe we could tie a bow on that. I think the way to tie a bow on that is to say that like there is a bottom up want for a return to quality in a lot of these things, and it'll in the short term it'll take a lot to finally return. But there's anyone who wants to start making money again, they can make moves, and they could bring it back. to stuff like The Jungle Book, which I think is a really fun, wholesome, lighthearted, energetic, good movie, especially for like young boys, but for like young kids and families in general. It's a really nice movie. I like it a lot. It really sticks to landing in terms of the message, but has a lot of fun, goofy, whimsical, like beatnik hippies energy along the way. So it's like the best of both worlds in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a perfect bridge, you know.
Super chat from Doctrine says, "Have you guys seen the 1981 movie Looker? Could be an interesting watch. WRT to developing AI
With
capabilities."
relation to.
With relation to, thank you. That's interesting. I have not heard of
I
that movie.
Neither have I.
Looker. We're gonna look it up right now. Looker 1981. Hmm. Oh, Michael Crichton directed it. Interesting. I assume it's based on one of his books. That would make
Hmm.
sense. I've not heard of this movie.
No, never heard of this.
3 of 4 models who had plastic surgery done by Larry after a computed list are dead. Neither the cops nor Larry believe their suicides. Larry investigates and stays with the 4th model. Who's behind the lists and murders? Okay, well, that is an awful description. Whoever wrote that for IMDb, not very well written description. That's an interesting looking movie poster. I'll check that out at some point. Michael Crichton. I like, Michael Crichton as a writer. I like Jurassic Park. I almost said The Jungle Book. Michael Crichton's The Jungle Book would have a very different ending for sure. Thank you for the
Interesting.
super chat.
Yeah.
Anyway, where were we with The Jungle Book? We talked about the overall story. We talked about the animation, the character designs, and stuff like that. We didn't really talk about. Let's go through the vignettes, right? Because
Yeah.
we start with him being found in a basket, a la Moses kind of thing. He's found by, oh God, I remembered his name earlier. What is it? The
Bagheera.
panther. Bagheera. Bagheera finds him and he's like, "Oh no, a child. What's that sound? It's a child. It's a sound that you don't hear much in the jungle. Oh my God, it's a man cub." I like that they call him a man cub and all that sort
Yeah.
of stuff. It's fun. And he's like, "Well, that's interesting. All right, I'm gonna leave now." But then something about his like dormant paternal instinct kicks in, and he's like, "Ah, okay, I guess I'll take care of him. I mean, I can't take care of him myself, but I'll find someone who can." So he finds the wolves who have a bunch of little baby cute wolf cubs, and he's like, "I'll just drop them off here." And there's a fun little gag where he sets the basket down. The wolves are inside their little, burrow, and then nothing happens. So he goes and he scares the little baby, so he starts crying. So that way the wolves will
Yeah.
come find him. It's a fun little gag. I like Bagheera a lot as a sort of like uh, he's trying to be wise and do the right thing, but he's always like right on the verge of giving up and like well fine, I won't bother. But he keeps like coming back because he just can't help himself because deep down he wants to help, right? It's a fun dynamic. I like that. And then we basically flash forward. It's been 10 years, and Mowgli is now a young boy roaming through. He's not with the wolves anymore, and now it's time. It has been decided that he needs to return home. And so at first, Bagheera takes him. They're wandering through the jungle, and he's like, "Where are we going?" It's like, "We're taking you back." He's like, "But I don't want to go back. I want to stay in the jungle forever. I want to stay in Neverland, etc." Hakuna Matata. And so he gets into a fight with Bagheera. Bagheera, fine, go off on your own, whatever. I don't need to help you. And he runs into Baloo, and of course he hears Baloo. This is a scene that also feels very reminiscent of The Lion King, where Baloo's like teaching him how to fight like a bear, and so he's like, let me hear you roar. Can't roar at all. It's a really pathetic
Yeah.
roar. And there's a fun little gag almost to camera where Baloo's like, "Oh Lord, like what are we gonna do with this kid?" And so, but he hears the screaming, and so Bagheera comes running again, to save him because he just can't help himself. Baloo, being the sort of like beatnik guy, he's like, "Yeah, whatever, man. Everything will work out. Like, oh, you'll make a good bear. Like, we'll be friends." And so, basically, the dynamic for the rest of the movie is Bagheera and Baloo sort of arguing over whether Mowgli is going to go be with the humans or whether he can
Whether he
just stay
can
in the
try to
jungle.
be a bear.
Exactly. But Baloo is a bit too carefree and laissez-faire to properly care for take care of Mowgli because pretty soon he gets him captured by a bunch of monkeys who take him and bring him to King Louie, who obviously is very interested in mankind because he wants to be a man and he wants the secret to man's to success, his secret, their secret to success, which he views as fire. Like that's the main thing. If I can just figure out fire, then I'll know how to be human being and achieve all their sort of civilizational and technological greatness, right? So Baloo loses him, and he goes over and he has that absolutely incredible song with King Louie, right? With the
Yeah.
jazz and all that sort of stuff. The big band swing jazz. It's really, really great. And so they have to like bust him out, right? And so that gets into a lot of really fun
With like maybe
vis-
one of the
visual gags.
best, like, because King Louis is not even really a main villain, but one of the best characterizations for a secondary villain in in media, maybe like a monkey who wants to be a man is living in an ancient ruined city pretending, but trying to get the secret to fire because that's, the thing that he thinks is going to set them apart. It's I mean it was I remembered him being like playing a bigger role for some reason,
Mm,
but I think it's mostly just because I'm so fascinated with the idea of that
yeah,
character. It's so good for what is essentially just like a really quick one and done vignette by the end
yeah.
of it, right?
It's very good. He really leaves a mark, right? I think he's maybe even slightly more interesting than Shere Khan.
Yeah.
Shere Khan, I love his performance. He's great, and I love his vocal inflections and the way he interacts with all the other animals. I like that he's basically immune to cause like hypnotism, and he's like really like flippant and indifferent about it in a really fun way. I like Khan and I like the sorry, I like Shere Khan and the role he serves in the story. But man, King Louis, like I want more of him. He's really fascinating, right? He has like the lyrics are also really, really fun in this song.
Yeah.
Where he's like, now I'm the king of the swingers, oh the jungle VIP. I've reached the top and had to stop, and that's what's bothering me. I want to be a man, man cub, and to stroll right into town and be just like the other men. I'm tired of monkey around. And then he goes doop doop
Shooby-doo. Oh
boop and
my
does all
god.
the
And
scatting and all that sort of stuff.
Louis
It's
Prima
great.
was so good at that. I'm also really excited.
Unbelievably good.
He's so good at that, and I'm so excited for that. Like, because Aristocats is the next one, right? And Scatman
Right.
Crothers is in Aristocats, which
Yeah.
we
What a name, by the way.
Yeah. We
Scatman
we are
Crothers.
just like we are kicking off the jazz Disney like with a absolute banger. And then Robin Hood when Louis Prima is back. Like
Yeah.
hell yeah. Sign me up. Yeah, I think that the characterization of like the ambition of King Louis is so good that it could carry
Mhm.
it could carry the plot, like
Yeah,
for
it could.
it absolutely could, but they just use it sort of as a throwaway as like the middle, the motivation for
We
one
could
of
meet a fun monkey along the way. What could be his thing? Oh, maybe he's a monkey who wants to be a man. Yeah, that's interesting.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
almost has that energy to it, but like it's because he's fun, right? He's lively, he's fun, he's energetic, he's singing a really fun, catchy song. He's scatting and doing all this really exuberant stuff, right? And so when he's like, so here's your part of the deal. Lay the secret on me of man's red fire, but he's like, "Oh, but I don't know how to make fire." And then the turn is really interesting. He's like, "Now don't try to kid me. Like I've made a deal with you." Like I love that he's like I don't believe you,
Yeah.
kid. Like you're a man. Obviously, you know how to make fire. Like don't fuck with me, you little shit. you know,
Yeah,
like this.
we made a deal. It's like it's a deal with the devil, and
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, it's so good. It's
And I like that he calls it man's red flower. That's a really kind of
yeah.
evocative turn of phrase. I like that a lot.
Oh, dude, they used to make capital M music for these movies.
Yeah, they did. They really did.
Yeah.
There's some absolutely great songs, and even the lesser known songs, because obviously "Bare Necessities" and "I Want to Be Like You." Those are the hits, right?
Yeah.
But the Elephants March song, whatever
Yeah.
that's called, is excellent, very fun, very catchy. And even the little tune that the girl sings at the end is very
Mhm.
catchy. Very like, oh, that's a really pretty melody. I like that a lot.
Yeah. I do wonder what it would have been like if they hadn't rewritten the Vultures song, because the Vultures song was supposed to be more of a Beatles type, pop
Sure.
jingle,
And they turned it into
barbershop quartet.
that's it, yeah.
Yeah. So I do
I like
wonder, because
the
I like the
I like the
barbershop
barbershop.
quartet,
Yeah, exactly.
but I wonder what it would have been like if they had done, because this is 1967, right? Like we had the pop legends, were all operating at this point, right? Like the rock and roll pop groups. So like, I
Sure.
feel like we could have had there could have been another, another crown, a jewel in the crown. This movie.
Yeah. I think that could have been really fun if there was an actual little Beatles tune. I think in one of the I think it's the Wikipedia article they like mention hold on. See, because I think they might have mentioned which song they wanted to. Okay, it was planned to have the members of the band to both voice the characters and sing their song "That's What Friends Are For." I don't know if I know that one super well.
Uh,
Oh, that's the one that's
Yeah, that's the
in.
barbershop quartet that's in the
Oh,
it's in the
okay.
movie. They just rewrote it.
Okay,
Yeah.
when the way it was phrased as their song, "That's What Friends Are For," I thought they meant the Beatles. So yeah, okay. They were gonna sing "That's What Friends Were For" in the movie. They weren't gonna sing a Beatles song. They might have made it a bit more Beatles style.
Yeah.
They did, but
John
anyway.
Lennon
Okay.
didn't want to sing for Disney. He'd rather
Yeah,
go
well,
and
fuck
make
him.
his
He's
fucking Yellow Submarine trash.
yeah. What a is he wrote some great songs, but John Lennon was a douche.
Yeah.
Such a douche. Just a scumbag. Anyway. Yeah.
Well, so many tangents.
Yeah, I know.
Sword and
So many.
Sandals. John Lennon. Animal Farm.
Feminism. Um, no, we're talking about Jungle Book now. We're gonna stick to it.
The second the
The
liquor
songs.
touches our lips.
Excellent songs in this movie. So many great hits. And it straddles that really interesting line, as we mentioned before, between the old school Disney style. Because, like, for example, the the song that the girl sings at the end feels very old school Disney. You know, the little ballad she sings at the end.
Yeah.
Then we got the fun swinging jazz, and the overture at the very beginning is very kind of Indian influence in a sort of like as much as Americans at the time understood Indian music. It's just got little uh like a little. It's like a taste of like a hint of India, like there's like hint of lime chips like that, but for India. You get what I'm saying. At least you're okay with Paul McCartney's songwriting. I think now we're going to go on another tangent. You ready?
Yeah, let's
Who's the
go.
best Beatle? It's Paul McCartney, and it's not close.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's
It's
Paul.
Paul McCartney.
Obviously, the way they worked together is a big part of why they were good. But if we're gonna play the Who's the best Beatle game, it's Paul McCartney, and it's not close.
If we're gonna play Who's the Beatle I would most like to have a beer with, it's probably Ringo. Because Ringo,
It's probably Ringo.
it's probably Ringo. Ringo was just there, man. Like, I feel, I feel so bad for him watching it. Did you ever watch the Get Back documentary that Peter Jackson did, where he
I
found,
watched
like,
some of it. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Him just sitting behind the drum set while they're all trying to write a song. He's like,
they're all trying to write a song. They're all arguing. Paul's being there like, oh, I don't want everybody to be mad at us because Yoko came in and George is throwing fits and storming out because he doesn't want to,
quitting the band.
quitting the band and then coming back in and everything. And Ringo's just like, am I gonna drum today or
Or is it just going to be another?
it's
Is
just
this
another one
today
of
going to
these?
be a
Should I just
wash?
go smoke? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, he was like the most honestly professional of the group. It's pretty funny, actually. Because I like that because like they would sit in these band practices and he would just like literally sit behind the drum set like the whole time and just kind of like or most of it anyway, just to be ready whenever they're actually ready to actually hear the drums, which was not most of the time. But he just sat there and he's like, "I'm ready, ready whenever you guys are."
Guys, you're paying me by the hour. I'm here.
That's a fun documentary.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Jungle Book.
Yeah, Jungle Book. So anyway, the Jungle Book. Yeah, I also really, so here's another thing that I really like about the transition to the ending, like the ending song being a more traditional type Disney thing, right? But
Mm.
also the whole song is basically her talking about, she's like, "Oh, father's out hunting, mother's in the house cooking, I'm out here. I go to fetch the water, and then eventually I'll have a handsome husband and I'll do the cooking and I'll have a daughter of my own who I send to get the water. And it's basically
Yeah.
being like, here's the societal structure that
Hmm.
Mowgli needs to be a part of. And she hypnotizes him with it and pulls him away from these, fun, but more like the bare necessities is like just go with the flow and everything will come to
Yeah,
you,
man.
man. And
No
you'll no
responsibility, no
responsibility,
ambition.
no ambition. And then King Louis is like, I'm gonna chase down this ambition that I can never get, right? Because like
Hmm.
even if he does get fire, he'll never be a man. He'll be a monkey with a machine gun, right? Like it's
Yeah.
it's you know it's basically luring him away with the promise of a traditional society and traditional values, and a
Yeah.
structure. And it like it works, and it's like, oh
It
yeah,
works really
this is
well.
it sticks really strong with the theme.
Because, like, what it's she is sort of modeling in the song the sort of, like, traditional family unit structure, right, of, like, every traditional society, right? And also, it's like, everyone has their right role in their right place, which is basically the theme of the movie because, like, that's what's running through all of it is that, like, no, everything has its right place
Yeah.
in a rightly ordered view of, like, civilization and nature. Like, you're not a bear.
Yeah,
You
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 can
need to
never
go
be
be
a
a man
bear.
now.
You need to go
You'll
be a
never be a
man.
bear. Yes, exactly, and
Well, and
and I
that's
think
the real conflict, and this is why I like Shere Khan so much as a villain, right? Is Shere Khan he's the king of the jungle in this. He's come back into the fold. But at the first response from Baloo and Bagheera and the wolves, all at the beginning is like, well, but Mowgli's different. Like he's not like he's not a man. He's been with us. He's different from the other
Shere
men. Like
Khan
he'll
views
Shere
all
Khan will.
men like the hunter that he encountered one time. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And
Yeah,
so he's
well,
like,
it's
"I
like
hate them all."
it's the natural order, though. It's like, like it doesn't matter if you raise him or whatever. He's going to become like he can't be a bear. He is a human, and like, so Shere Khan is really like the return of the natural order to like force him back into where he belongs, right? Which
Yeah.
is, yeah, they fight against it. He does conquer it in a way, but then the pull comes back to him regardless. And I think that that's also just a
But
really
Shere
strong
Khan
metaphorical thing.
lives, right? He's just scared away.
He ties a well, Mowgli ties a burning tree branch to his tail, and he runs off to cause the biggest, most devastating forest fire in the history of India. Um,
Yeah, but, like, he
so,
ostensibly lives.
like,
I
yeah, we never see a body. So,
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, right, that he bests him with fire. He doesn't create the fire because fire is created by lightning in this, but he does like tie it to his tail so it chases him forever. Like
yeah,
that's a really interesting image as
yeah,
well. I like that. That's interesting. Yeah, but Shere Khan is also part of the reason he's the villain is that like he has no concept of like man's. Well, he's I don't know. It's like Shere Khan watched the movie Bambi,
yes.
right?
Shere
Shere
Khan,
Khan
Shere Khan is the
like
one who voted for Man as the top 50 villains.
exactly. Exactly. That's his experience with mankind. And he doesn't understand or is unwilling to understand, the better side of man. And so he wants to kill all of humanity, essentially, anyone that he comes across. And also to assert that like they have no place in the jungle, but he just wants to kill them in general. Right. And so partly the reason he is to be defeated is because it's like, well, no. Like there is a right place for man, actually. You know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think, it's a fun, whimsical, lighthearted romp, this movie. A lot of fun set pieces and songs, but like it really sticks the landing in terms of the message,
It has
and
some
and
good
the themes.
symbolism you can really sink your teeth
Yeah, and I
despite being
think
that.
and I think part of why it ends up being so coherent ultimately is that like they're just having fun with it and they're
Yeah.
just kind of going with their gut and the gut understands. Like the gut understands what Baloo says at the very end. He's like, I guess you're right. I guess that is the natural way of things. Anyway, let's go keep having fun. Doop de doop de doop de doop de doop. Like that's I think there's something to be said for like movies that are like not taking themselves incredibly seriously and kind of having fun, just kind of naturally falling into very coherent symbolic patterns without thinking about them because the intuition and the gut understands these things, even if the brain
Yeah.
doesn't. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I think there's something to that
for
effect
sure.
happening here.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's like it's kind of like basically
Khan
what
wrote
happens with
Avatar. That's
Mowgli.
right.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Shere Khan wrote Avatar, but it's kind of basically exactly what happens with Mowgli, right? Is like by the end, it's not his brain, it's not his experiences, it's his dick. He's thinking with his dick. Is by the end of it, right? But like that
Yeah.
guides him to where he needs to be.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
natural
the
state of
natural,
things.
yeah, the natural impulse, the natural state. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a
It's
great
good.
movie.
I
Really,
like it
really
a
good.
lot. It's a lot of fun. It's there's so much to like about it. It is genuinely really funny. There are a lot of funny gags
Yeah.
that I won't ruin by talking through them, but like there's a lot of fun, a lot of comedic, humorous stuff. Yeah, I don't have anything else really to say
Yeah,
about it.
I'm yeah.
It's a really
We
solid movie. Really solid. I think it is. We'll talk about the rankings in just a moment, but it's going to be up towards the top for me. It's like just incredibly solid. This was my dad's favorite movie when he was a kid. So like I've watched it a lot with him. And I've always been a huge fan of elephants in particular. So when the elephants marching in happens, I'm like, ah, very fond memories of this one as a kid.
yeah. Well, I've got the tier list up, so we you know
Matthew Leach says, "What do I have to pay you guys to stream every week? About 1.99 once a week.
well, yeah, once a week.
You've
Except
nailed it. You've nailed it. We've been pretty good recently, haven't we?
I feel like well, yeah, we missed one. Well, yeah, we have been pretty good recently, but next weekend is Mother's Day, and I will be out of town for that
Damn,
with my family. So
damn you. All right. Well, that's all right. Mothers are important. They're part of the natural state of
natural,
things
yeah,
and all that.
natural state of things.
All right.
I'm a
Well,
very good little Confucian boy. I
so I
honor
guess
my
no stream next
ancestors.
Sunday. Go spend time with your mothers.
Yes.
But in general, we've been doing pretty good about once a week, and we're gonna try to stick to that, Matthew Leach. We're gonna try to stick to that. That's our plan. We've been doing all right until
Yeah, until
Mother's Day.
these
Mothers.
fucking
Ooh,
women getting in the way of
women.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here
All
we
right.
have,
Let's talk
yeah.
about Let's
Let's
talk
talk
about
about you. I've
how it
got
ranks.
your ranking right up here.
There it is. I see
And
it.
there it is, the last of the Silver Age, right before we get into the Bronze. So,
Hmm.
it's just as a quick recap, the Sword and the Stone is the bottom here.
Yeah, that movie bothers me. We talked all about that one.
Yeah, I assume that this one will because we have to insert it somewhere up here. So I'm gonna just go ahead and move that down to the 15th spot. Yeah, how about that? And I think I can
Wait,
say
sorry, what?
we have to insert the Jungle Book into your ranking here
Mm-hmm.
somewhere. We're on number 15. So I'm
Yeah,
just going to go ahead and take the liberty of moving down
the
Dumbo
Sword
or
and Stone.
moving
Okay,
down Bambi,
I understand.
Fantasia, and the Sword and the Stone. Um,
The Jungle Book is better than Dumbo. It's at least that high. 100. This is gonna get hard now because I don't want to fall into recency bias.
yeah, yeah. This is
Um, The Lady and the Tramp, 101 Dalmatians. Ooh. Okay, yeah, it's better than Dumbo for sure for me. So it's at least that high. Let's see. Let's think. 101 Dalmatians. That's got a nice. Sorry,
that's
I don't think it's better than Lady and the Tramp for me because I really like Lady and the Tramp. I think that story is just a bit stronger for me. And story is going to be the big thing, just making this decision for me because, animation and songs, that stuff's all great, but story is like the heart of it, right? So I, is this better than 101 Dalmatians? I'm trying not to
mm,
look at the chat. I don't want them to sway me. Is this better than 101 Dalmatians?
that's a good question.
That is a good question. I think there's a lot of fun stuff in 101 Dalmatians. Cruella's a great villain. I like all the little cute dogs doing cute dog stuff, but Pongo is a legend.
Absolute
Um,
Giga Chad.
yeah. And Lady and the Tramp, I really like the story of Lady and the Tramp. Mm, I am going to. I'm going to say I'm just going to make an executive decision. Maybe this will change. That this falls just below 101 Dalmatians for me.
Okay. All right. So number 7, breaking into the top 10, beating out some classics.
Yeah, yeah. Can I keep thinking for a second?
Yeah, please do. Yeah,
Be-
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, like,
because
I'm willing to have because I have to have this conversation with myself as well. So so here's the thing, right? 101 Dalmatians. I don't know that the overall story of 101 Dalmatians is much more linear and direct, but
mhm.
the and this is the thematic through line of the Jungle Book is really strong for me.
Yeah,
I
because
think,
101 Dalmatians is more just like we gotta go get our kids back, which is not
yeah,
bad, but it's a
no, not
little.
that it's bad. It's just that it's
The,
not quite hitting in the same way that
yeah,
the overall, let's call it, values of the Jungle Book are.
yeah, I do like that. That is, I
Yeah,
do appreciate that a lot. And someone else in the chat, now that I'm looking at the chat, has mentioned that 101 Dalmatians loses in the musical department as well.
it does. Yeah,
It
because as
does.
much as I love the Cruella de Vil song, that's the only one that it's got, and this has
Yeah.
just like absolute two all-time greats for Disney
Yeah.
musical songs.
But and as we mentioned, I think a lot of the songs in this movie are good. You know what? I'm gonna give it the edge over 101 Dalmatians. I've been convinced. I think yeah, I think it's just a slightly stronger movie. The Lady and the Tramp, is it better? It's not better than Snow White. I can't give it a better spot than Snow White. Snow White gets a lot of points for being the first one, but I think just being like the really faithful fairy tale,
Mhm.
it's very, very strong and it's very symbolically rich, and there's great music in that too. And I think Snow White just has a slightly stronger story to it. So it's not better than Snow White. Is it better than Lady and the Tramp? Because I like Tramp's story a lot.
I love Tramp's story. The animation for Tramp
Is beautiful.
is
That's honestly one of
beautiful.
my Lady and the Tramp is one of my favorites in the animation department.
Yeah.
It's just stunning. It's beautiful. And no, I like Lady and the Tramp better. All right, that's my list.
All right.
I'm
There we
sticking
go.
to it.
So, all right, number 6. All right, time for me to go up here.
Pro Tramps, yeah.
All right. Well, I can easily
Tramps
put
rights.
Tramp's rights. I can easily put these ones down here. I'm gonna keep Mary Poppins where it's at, because I definitely like this one more than Dumbo. Definitely more than South.
Jay
I'm
Jameson is correct that Tramp's story is a bit incomplete. It's like I want a little bit more flesh on how he makes the turn at the end, but there is enough to understand how he makes it. So it's like I think it's still really strong. I think it could be even stronger. I think by comparison, for example, Mowgli's story is like he's not super active as a
no.
protagonist.
I do like his kind of his obstinance, the obstinance of just like when he's finally confronted with Shere Khan, he's basically just like the entitlement of just being human basically carries him through and wins the day. I do like that because he's just like he doesn't know to be afraid because
Yeah,
he
yeah. There's a lot of fun stuff with Mowgli for sure. I just don't know that his story is maybe quite as compelling.
yeah.
I
Do
like the
I?
overall themes and message of the Jungle Book is strong in terms of being a sort of compelling narrative the whole way through. It's just more like the skeleton to hang a bunch of fun gags on, which is not a bad thing. It's a
Yeah.
good movie, but I think the story of Lady and the Tramp is just a bit richer for me. But if I had to choose based solely on like vibes and music and stuff, I might give it to the Jungle Book because Jungle Book is, man, it's just so fun. Anyway, it's your turn now.
Yeah,
I should
I
let you
am
take the
I'm gonna
stage.
do, you know what? I'm gonna do some serious rearranging here. I'm gonna take Peter Pan and
Uh-oh.
drop it all the way down here because I can't really justify putting the Jungle Book. I agree with you 100%. I cannot justify putting it above Snow White. I can't do that. What I can do is justify putting it above Cinderella,
Really?
Yeah, I think that overall for me the music in the Jungle Book is going to be the edge here. I think the narrative themes and like everything that it's working with holds it's got a really strong story for that overall, right? His arc is not as solid maybe as Cinderella's. The animation is a little more slapdash, you know. It's imitating more Saturday
Slightly.
morning cartoon,
Yeah, yeah.
you know. But I think that overall like the relation of man to nature, the symbolism that we're working with between like the
Hmm.
snake and the girl and Baloo and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
all of that, and then just the fact that it's got that jazzy is Dixieland kind of stuff.
Sure.
That's just gonna bump it up
Okay.
just above that. But Peter Pan is gonna drop down to seventh place.
That's okay. So let's talk about. So I can understand liking it more than Cinderella. Cinderella, I think, has a lot of great music as well, as far as classic Disney sort of. Um,
Like the
I don't know, almost
orchestral
Tin
kind of,
Pan
yeah.
Alley and orchestral sort of like a great music in Cinderella. And I think that's got a really great moral message as well, along with Jungle Book. But I could see thinking Jungle Book is more fun for sure. Peter Pan, why is Peter Pan dropping so far? You had that at number 3,
I
did you
had that at
not?
number 3, and I'm dropping that down because the more I think about it, the more I'm like, that was purely a vibes pick. That's
Yeah.
one that's like, yeah, that's for the boys.
Uh-huh.
Um, I I just I don't think that it has the rich. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna drop it to below 101 Dalmatians now that I'm thinking.
Really?
Yeah,
This is shocking to me.
this is a big change. We're doing some real rearrangement here, but the more I'm thinking about it, the more like first of all, I don't love the overall cohesiveness of Peter Pan's arc and story. I don't love how
I
the
mean,
whole
it's
Tinkerbell thing. Well, not as much as these others, right?
sure.
I
Okay,
don't I like
sure.
like, keep in mind, I love pretty much all of these movies except really like The Sword and the Stone and Fantasia.
Yeah,
Bambi
yeah.
is
I'm
fine.
with you.
Um, but I think that it's not just not quite there, you know,
All
cohesively
right. I
overall
mean,
all
I
the way
can't really
through.
disagree. That's about where it is on my list too.
Yeah.
I'm just shocked to see it fall so far.
Yeah, and then talking about this one and realizing how much overall I like this one better than Peter Pan. I'm
Yeah,
like, yeah, you
that's
know what?
fair.
That makes sense. And I agree with you on the Snow White stuff, right? Like it's just a really perfect fairy tale. That's why Sleeping Beauty is number 1 for me too,
Hmm.
right? Is because that is a
Yeah, that's
perfect
that's a
fairy
great
tale.
movie. Where did I
And
have it? Will you remind me?
you have Sleeping Beauty at 3.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. As long as it's up
yeah.
there.
Pinocchio moves into the top 3 because like I can't justify Jungle Book being stronger than Pinocchio is the thing. Like and that's the other one,
Yeah, if we're
you know.
thinking about the sort of symbolically, thematically rich sort of moral story for children, Pinocchio is like way up there
Yeah.
for me.
And I
Yeah.
think the Jungle Book does, like somebody just mentioned, Jungle Book does do a better job even than Peter Pan of capturing the whole importance of growing up. But yeah,
I think so.
yeah,
Slightly more. Yeah.
yeah. I wouldn't say it's better than Pinocchio, but I can't like I can't say, you know, Peter Pan is better than it. So I think that's really where I'm like, no, I think I got to drop it. I've got to put it down back to where like back to the middle where it belongs, I think. Um, but I also just really like the Dalmatians, and I think that overall
Yeah, they're
that
fun too.
story is a lot more like it's a lot more direct. It's
Mhm.
really efficient. It's right down to the, you know, it's working really well. I'm gonna say that that one story wise doesn't sprawl and kind of peter out the way Peter Pan does. You
I
know,
got you.
yeah. So
All
that
right.
yeah, my updated
Interesting
ranking.
developments
Yeah,
in the rankings.
Jungle Book cracks the top 5. Peter Pan slides.
Wow.
Yeah,
Would you look at that?
and we got
I
a
must
couple.
say, it's a mighty fine list.
Yeah,
These movies are so good, man.
they really
Like
are.
I totally agree with you. Like the only really the only ones that I don't know if I'll rewatch anytime soon or like wouldn't strongly recommend are Bambi, Fantasia, and The Sword and the Stone. Those are the only ones where I'm like, eh.
Yeah.
Like everything above that is a banger
Yeah,
to varying
absolutely.
degrees. I think, especially once you get above Alice in Wonderland, all of those are bangers. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, I like Song of the South. Song of the South is a perfectly fine, good movie, but it's
it's
not.
not. Yeah,
It's not amazing like some of the other ones.
yeah. Dumbo, and the reason it's sitting below or above Dumbo for me is just because Dumbo is a little thin on the stuff that I'm looking for. Song of the South
Sure.
has a really strong through line, and as
hmm
much as it is not animated, um, I would rewatch
The
that one.
animated bits are really good,
Yeah,
though. Really
yeah,
good.
they
I like
are.
the Brer
I love the
Rabbit
Brer
stuff.
Rabbit stuff. It's so great. Yeah, we are making some good. We're making some good progress. We're 15 deep on this one. I do have a
God,
lot
there's so
of
many
the.
more than I thought.
Well, keep in mind that a lot of the ones at the end here are 3D, right? Like the Frozen and Big Hero
Oh,
6 and
okay.
everything like that. Those are the
And we're
three.
not
Like,
gonna do
yeah,
those.
more than likely not. I think going. Well, here's the thing. I think going from Princess and the Frog to Tangled might be a good thing to do, especially given that the failure financially of Princess and the Frog led them to change course into Tangled. It
Sure.
might be
As
interesting to
a
do that.
and interesting to watch and talk about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
but if we're talking about just the 2D animated ones and then the weird exceptions for the partially 2D animated ones that we're making, that
Yes.
that seems like a good
For
place to draw the
example, Who
line.
Framed Roger Rabbit being right up here. I'm very excited for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited for that one too.
This is we're starting to get to the point where because the curiosity that spurred me on for this project in the first place was, is The Fox and the Hound, The Black Cauldron, The Great Mouse Detective, Brave Little Toaster, which is a really fascinating story that we will talk about when we get there. Are those movies really that much worse than all of the rest of these? Because
That's a good question
yeah,
because I have not seen most of them, so I
I
really
I know I've
I
seen
have
The
no
Fox
way
and the
of
Hound,
knowing.
and I am not super excited about returning to that one because that one made me sad when I was a kid. Um, but I've
It'll
never
be
seen The
interesting.
Black Cauldron, um, and I don't really remember The Great Mouse Detective, The Brave Little Toaster, and
Yeah,
you
I
know,
those are the ones where clearly I never got around to those. So I don't know if it's because they're not good or just because they weren't financially successful, but we're gonna
yeah,
find out
I
together
yeah,
as a group. Aristocats is next. It won't be this next Sunday because this next Sunday is going to be Mother's Day, so go spend time with your mother. Um, but that will be the next one in the 2D animated Disney arc. Thanks
it
for
sure will.
joining on this tangent filled entry in the arc. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Thank you very much for the super chats, and we'll try to keep these weekly streams going, and then we'll keep you posted on big
Wait.
news. What?
Wasserman said that I need to rewatch and reevaluate the Centaurs in Fantasia. Why? which which ones are you referring to? Are you referring to the Pickaninny one? Because
I
I'm
assume they mean the sexy ones. And you need
oh,
to rewatch Fantasia and appreciate how sexy
how
the female
sexy the
centaurs
female
are, and
centaurs are.
that will move it up your list. I assume, unless they're saying, "Dude, how could you not love Fantasia? They have the blackface centaur shining
It's a
the
very
hooves."
Eastern European take of you, Wasserman. But it's got blackface. It's fantastic. Why wouldn't you like it? What's not to love?
Yeah, I can't believe it's so low on your list, frankly. Um, Anyway, I think that's going to be it for us. Thank you very much for joining us. We had a good time. I hope you did as well. And we'll see you not next Sunday, but the Sunday after that. So